Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Good Stories Podcast. I'm Jody, here with Steven. Hey, brother.
Hello.
Good job. And today, our EP Dave is here, too. You may remember him if you listened to some of our earlier episodes, like St. Patrick or Hornblower, but glad to have you here on this one. Hi, Dave.
Hello. You may remember me from such episodes.
Yeah. Exactly. We don't do the like previously on the Good Stories Podcast, the show rewind, but do you have to share something, brother? I think you've been listening back to other episodes and had a thought.
I do. I had a couple thoughts. It's one of the interesting things about having a podcast. There are now many hours of me speaking into a microphone that I have now listened to, and I went back and listened to a bunch of the old ones for various reasons, and a few things jumped out at me as I was listening through. One is anytime you listen to the old podcast, the first thing that really jump out are all the things you get wrong. So that definitely has happened more than once. And with podcasting, it's hard to kind of assert a retraction or anything. And most of these mistakes are small enough that most people don't catch them, but they do irritate me. I mean, on our most recent episode on the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, I talked about how Lord Roop had his hand placed upon the knife to put him to sleep. Totally wrong. That just didn't happen. There were other ones.
He did go to sleep, but that's not why.
Yeah, he did not touch the knife. In the Charles Williams podcast I talked about how the whole letters crossed in the mail of the two of them, which of course didn't happen. So a number of these come out. So I apologize to everyone for the slip-ups. Were there any particular ones that you've encountered that you've just been dying to correct?
No, for me, they're not anything huge, because you do catch them after that. You're like, man, or there's things I wish I'd said differently or spork like that, spoke more about. But we did get an email about Lord Roop.
Yeah, totally right. We got called out appropriately. Yes, we were mistaken.
And kindly, which was fine with me.
Totally.
But yeah, we are not an error-free system.
Well, that just goes to show an engaged listener base.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was great. The other thing that I found, though, listening back through these episodes is that I've learned a lot.
Me too.
I don't read the same way now, and in some of the earlier ones, there are points that I think I would bring up now that I didn't then, and so that was fun to me, just to see that I read differently now than I used to before and seeing how much I've learned. And then the other thing that struck me as I was listening through these, and I've been wanting to say this now for a little while, Jody is fantastic at this.
Aww.
Amen.
As I've been listening through, I could not and wouldn't want to listen to just me on this podcast. But hearing Jody and the stuff she brings up that I just do not see on them, I have really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it on the first one, and I've enjoyed it on my re-listen. So that's what I have gotten out of listening back through some of our episodes.
Well, hear to that. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. I was not expecting that. I listen to pieces of our episodes frequently, and they make me smile. And what's really annoying is I laugh in the same places. So when I listen, I still do the same laugh. So it's like my own laugh echo. That's annoying.
Well, can I say what I get out of this?
Go for it.
It's twofold. One, I feel way more well-read, even though I haven't read everything. But I'm also literally more well-read because it's encouraged me to dive into different books. And it's been kind of the kick that I needed to really just make it work. I used to be like our friend Gary, where I just needed to be silent for me to read. And that's just not going to happen. In life, you have kids, you have work. It's just not going to work to expect silence for reading. And so I just kind of do it anyways and plod on and know that I'm going to miss details, know that it's not going to be perfect, but what it will be is done. Don't let perfect get in the way of good enough. So that's been one. And two is your laugh recorded. I love it. And yes, you laugh in the same places or whatever, but it is a blessing to me to be able to listen to a recording of your laugh.
Okay. I don't know what to say. Thank you.
Don't edit this out.
Anyways, it would be weird for me to compliment Stevie back now, so I'll do that later.
Sounds good.
No, it is fun to listen through, and I learn new things all the time. I say that a lot because it's true, and it has changed how I read. Absolutely, actually, just story crossing and the thoughts that come and having something to say as opposed to just consuming. It's a really good practice. It's added a lot to how I read things. Well, I'm embarrassed, so we're going to move on now. Let's do our top 5 new download locations this week. So we have Lewiston, Idaho, Markham, Canada, Hayesville, North Carolina, Houston, Texas, and La Plata, Maryland. Strangely enough, there was a second Lewiston, not in Idaho. I didn't know there was another Lewiston, but it did not make the top 5 this week. Thank you guys for listening. Today's story is a fun one. My copy is titled Treasure Island, a timeless adventure of pirates, treasure maps, and high seas action. And this is one of those timeless stories that was fun to read as a kid, and it's still great today. So, time for a story.
Jim Hawkins, older than a child but not yet a man, helps his mother and father run a seaside inn in 18th century England. His life gets more interesting when a colorful lodger known as the Captain comes to stay with them. When men from the Captain's past show up as a violent gang, Jim is able to escape with his mother and a packet of papers from within the man's sea chest. Upon review, this packet is found to have a map leading to pirate treasure. Jim becomes part of an expedition to locate this treasure, resulting in an exciting adventure at sea and on remote islands, where pirates and sailors battle it out for the possession of untold wealth.
Very good. This one, spoiler alert, we're going to go through it, start to finish. And an age recommendation, I think you could read this one fairly young. I don't know, maybe 10 or so. It is more violent than I remembered, but reading it didn't throw me when I read it as a kid, the violence. But I think the language is older, and we've talked before about writing in vernacular. The pirate vernacular is in this, but it's great. So if there's a kid willing to kind of jump into it, you could go pretty young.
And it's a great one to read out loud to kids as well because of the pirate vernacular. Throw yourself at that and everyone's going to love it.
I find myself doing it, reading this for sure.
I looked up when this was actually published, and it turns out this was published in a few different steps. This was originally actually a serialized magazine story in Young Folks magazine from 1881 to 1882, but the actual novel was originally titled not Treasure Island, but The Sea Cook, a Story for Boys, and published in 1883.
That's interesting that it's a story for boys because while it's a different story than Captain's Courageous, it felt kind of adventure-y like that. And I do believe Kipling was a contemporary of Stevenson, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think they were. I don't know if they knew each other, but their work definitely crossed.
Yeah, The Sea Cook, I think it was his publisher that convinced him to change it because it was too boring. And it's not evident that it's about pirates. It does sound a lot calmer than Treasure Island and the idea of adventure, even though the story, I think, was the same. But the original title was Treasure Island or the Mutiny of the Hispaniola, which is the name of the ship. Written by Robert Louis Stevenson. What else do you know by Robert Louis Stevenson?
I looked him up a little bit. Interesting guy. He's a Scotsman, which is always exciting, and he wrote a number of really interesting adventure stories. We have talked about Jekyll and Hyde on this show, and that was his. But this one is probably the one that I would argue is the most famous. It's certainly the one that I've read the most times.
Well, and Kidnapped was another one that I think is also a Disney movie out there, but a story of his.
Yes, and I remember watching that when we were younger. I don't know that nearly as well as I know this one. He traveled quite a bit. He spent time, he was Scottish, but spent time in America and then ended up dying on Samoa, right?
American Samoa.
Yeah, where he's kind of a local legend. I think they kind of honor him as a guy who tried to help out the native culture there.
I think that's right. I think he was seeking tropical climates because he was somewhat of an invalid, as I understand, and the Scottish weather did not play nice with his health conditions, apparently.
Scottish weather, I don't know if that plays nice with many health conditions.
Yeah, drier climates is a thing in a century or two ago. You move to a drier climate for your health. You have weak health. You go to the seashore to drier climes. Why? Was that?
I don't know if those are drier. Like tropical is not drier.
But they're described that way. Drier climates than, I guess, is wet,
warmer.
cold.
Being wet. Well, there's a whole thing with temperature. Like, that's an older thing too. Like close the window at night or you'll catch cold or whatever. Or
yeah. I have to wonder if the temperature change was really the big part of it. I mean, the other thing too is if you're traveling in this time from a place like, London or New York, or I mean, these places are sooty, right? I mean, they burn all the time. It's smoggy, it's polluted.
1870s. Yeah, if you get some clean air, it's gonna do you a whole lot.
Totally. And where can you get more just pristine air than the Pacific Ocean? I mean, I think there's some of that involved. I have read, and I think there's argument about what was the lung condition he actually had. It tends to get labeled tuberculosis because just about every lung condition in the past gets labeled as tuberculosis. But I've heard some other very clever analysis that it might be a condition called sarcoidosis, which I won't go into big detail. One of the stronger arguments I read on one is that it's actually a condition called Osler-Rendau-Weber syndrome, which actually has to do more with blood vessels, where he was bleeding a lot into his lungs. So if you cough up blood, we usually in the old story say, well, that's tuberculosis. But it might have been that he actually had more of kind of a bleeding disorder, which ended up taking him out. He died young. He was only, 44 when he died, but he generated some really good work before that.
Okay, so this book and what he wrote here, I feel like it is pivotal in just the development of what we think of stereotypically about pirates. Just the concept of what is piratish. And it's used in later stories, even Pirates of the Caribbean or Hook, all these pirates that we know offhand. A lot of it comes from this. And maybe it was, oral stories prior to this, but I don't think it was written down really ahead of this. Like, there had been actual pirates like Blackbeard and Captain Kidd, those actual pirates, actual buccaneers. But this, where even X marks the spot, I don't know, maybe that's in other stories, but this is where I first learned of it, the black spot with pirates. Even the words they use, Davy Jones' locker. I tried to find if there were earlier uses of the phrase Davy Jones' locker in literature. I don't know. Maybe there are.
That was a thing. That, I don't know who Davy Jones actually was, but I do think that was a thing. And I think that was even mentioned in the Hornblower, if I'm not mistaken. I do believe they mentioned things about sending people to Davy or things like this. Not in the pirate way, but they definitely have, it's like, there's like a seafaring thing with that. I think, I do think it was a real thing.
But he wrote them down. Like, this guy wrote the pirate stories, even the parrot on the shoulder.
The parrot on the shoulder, the one leg, and I'm sure all these issues would have been very, very common amongst people who had fought for King George at sea.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff I learned about him. So, X marks the spot. I mean, classic, right? Used in so many stories and tales, and that's in this on this map. But this story started with a map. I think he wrote it for, his nephew or
I believe
stepson?
It was his stepson. So this is the dedication that I have in my copy of this. It says, to Lloyd Osborne, an American gentleman in accordance with whose classic taste the following narrative has been designed. It is now in return for numerous delightful hours and with the kindest wishes dedicated by his affectionate friend, the author. And yeah, I was looking this up, and Lloyd Osborne, I think, is his stepson. I think he was 12 years old when this got written, and I think these stories were stories to him that then got compiled.
That's so fun. I love the idea of the map, and that initially he was just filled with the concept from this treasure map that they had created. And it says he wrote a chapter a day initially, but he got massive writer's block for somewhere in the middle, like in the first third, like how to save Jim Hawkins. He didn't know, but it came back around and he did eventually publish it. But I just love the idea of drawing a map and this story pouring out of him because of it.
I think it's a super sweet thing as a stepdad to those kids that he's writing them stories. And, as the kids, I'm sure they didn't know what they had there. But later, that was my stepdad, and he wrote that story for me, and it was Stevenson. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So I think he didn't do the things his dad wanted him to do. I think I read somewhere his father ran a lighthouse, and you follow in your father's footsteps, but he took the bar. He was a lawyer or attempted to be.
I read he was trained as a civil engineer, as was his father, and as was many a Scotsman who wasn't nobility, but had, was intelligent and was looking for a good, respectable career. I happen to know a Scotsman whose dad was a civil engineer. And it turns out that my great-grandfather and my grandfather were both, well, my grandfather was a first-generation American. His father was a Scotsman, and they were both civil engineers as well.
I think both of those are true because I think that he was an engineer. It was in the family, but I think there was also a lighthouse that they would inspect. I don't know if that was because they owned it or if it was part of the engineering.
No, that would make
duty.
a ton of sense. Like the structural integrity of the thing, you probably have to check it every now and then. Makes sense.
Well, either way, Robert didn't do that. Didn't follow his dad. But his dad contributed to this story. The evil captain who initially buries the treasure, his name is Flint. We'll get to that. But his dad named Flint's boat the Walrus. That was a contribution from his father. Oh, there's a marooned man in this story, and his father recommended that he become this kind of religious fanatic, all about the prayers, his time on the island, and it makes him so likable. I really love the marooned guy, the maroon buccaneer. And then the signature on the map of Captain Flint, his dad did that.
Really?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I just think that's so fun that even though he didn't follow in the career path that was kind of lined up for him, that his dad was still involved in his writing and apparently enjoyed the book and the story. His wife, however, did not. I have a quote.
Fanny,
His wife, Fanny, did not like this story. She's talking about a friend of theirs that does like it. And she's like, I'm glad he likes it. I don't. I liked the beginning, but after that, the life seems to go out of it and it became tedious.
at least she gave him an honest opinion, I presume. So I read this. I don't know if you want to splice this in. Davy Jones, according to the time-honored source of Wikipedia, its origins are unclear, with a 19th century dictionary tracing Davy Jones to a ghost of Jonah, which makes a ton of sense. There's other explanations of this nautical superstition, including an incompetent sailor or a pub owner who kidnapped sailors.
Hold up. Jonah got out of the water.
Yeah, but they had, like, being a Jonah ain't a good thing.
Yeah, that's true. Like the curse of a Jonah on a ship.
In the Bible story, like the curse came on the ship because of him. He was fleeing God, basically, and he had to get off that ship to save the rest of the men there. And he was willing to jump overboard for it.
I just meant that he didn't stay down there. He came back out. The whale spats him out on shore.
That sounds gross too.
It is gross. It was not a pleasant time for Jonah. Inside the book, though, there's a lot of background on this. I actually didn't expect it, but I found all this wonderful trivia. The names, several of the names and things are kind of echoes of actual things. So one of bad guys, does everybody know the name Long John Silver?
I think everyone knows the name Long John Silver.
He's the bad guy. I mean,
we already said we were spoiling
We're
it.
going to spoil it. He's the bad guy in the end. But one of his his name was actually the pirate Blackbeard's second in command. He pulled forward the name, and the good guys, the officers, and a couple of them have names of British naval officers, like Admiral John Benbow. The inn at the beginning is the Benbow Inn, and Admiral Edward Hawke, I think, is where Jim Hawkins comes from. So really cool, just piecing together of things he knew about, stories he knew, into this new and wonderful thing.
It's so classic. Like it truly does. Like you said that before, but it just has all the pirate things.
And it's exciting. I mean, well, his wife apparently didn't think so. She found it tedious, but to me, this has always just been a rolling tale. I mean, it's exciting. It's pirates. It's the sea. It's the ocean. It's treasure. It's maps. It's very, very fun. Now, in my version, there is some persuasion. There is a poem at the very beginning. If somebody is not certain about this, they don't know if they're going to like it, there is a poem to the hesitating purchaser, and I think we should read it. So here goes. If sailor tales to sailor tunes, storm and adventure, heat and cold, if schooners, islands, and maroons, and buccaneers and buried gold, and all the old romance retold exactly in the ancient way, can please, as me they pleased of old, the wiser youngsters of today, so be it, and fall on. If not, if studious youth no longer crave, his ancient appetites forgot, Kingston or Ballantyne the brave, or Cooper of the wood and wave, so be it also. And may I and all my pirates share the grave where these and their creations lie.
That's cool. I don't want to live in a world where people aren't interested in this, basically. That's the message.
That's the message I got.
And clearly there's more stories out there, pirate stories, because I don't know Kingston or Ballantyne the Brave or Cooper of the Wood and Wave. So I don't think Stevenson was the creator of all the piratey things, but his assemblage of them in this, so good.
It has kindled interest for me, and it splices right in with my interest now in the Hornblower series. So I'm happy with it. I did notice something it's missing, though. Completely devoid of pirate jokes. It's no pirate jokes.
Are you going to correct that over the course of this podcast?
Perhaps I might.
He's got a couple lined up.
What's a pirate's favorite letter?
R.
R says you. The C says others. But truly it's the P says I. Because it's like an R, but it's missing a leg. Sorry. Cheesy.
I think Stephen established early on that we have no problem with cheesy. And I'm about to rave at length about the Muppets.
Oh, yeah.
So it fits right in. The Muppet movie, or the Muppet version of this story, is fantastic. It does not follow the book exactly, but it is excellent. Highly recommend. We also watched a version where Charlton Heston is Long John Silver from the 90s.
It's
and
awesome.
It does follow the book fairly closely, and it is very good, but they're not the same. And if I were going to pick one or the other, I'd watch the Muppets.
I did watch the Muppets in preparation for this show because it's so good. I mean, Tim Curry in that role as Long John, brilliant.
How do you know Tim Curry? Where do you know Tim Curry from? That's a whole... we should do a short on that, maybe.
Yeah, that is a prompt online, like, that you can tell a lot about a person by what they know Tim Curry from, but...
Clue.
I think the answer is Clue. Dave's answer is Clue. But I think we should get started. That's what I think. We'll do Tim Curry as a short.
Excellent. I'm in.
So chapter 1 is called The Old Sea Dog at the Admiral Benbow. As I said, the Admiral Benbow is an inn, and it is run by a family. And Jim Hawkins is the son of father and mother who run this inn. And we learn pretty early on his father is sickly.
Yeah.
Not doing well. But the mom is kind of a force. She holds her own.
She is impressive. But we also learn right off the bat why this is being written. Jim is being requested to tell this story. And so this is going to be told in the first person. And yeah, I'll just read it. Squire Trelawney, Dr. Livesey, and the rest of these gentlemen, having asked me to write down the whole particulars about Treasure Island from the beginning to the end, keeping nothing back but the bearings of the island, and that only because there is still treasure not yet lifted. I take up my pen in the year of grace, 1700 and something, and go back to the time when my father kept the Admiral Benbow Inn, and the brown old seaman with the saber cut first took up his lodging under our roof.
So initially, this seedy captain comes to their door. They don't really want him there, but he has gold. At the beginning, he flings gold at them and says, let me know when that's gone, when I use that up. But the description of him is great. A tall, strong, heavy, nut-brown man, his tarry pigtail falling over the shoulders of his soiled blue coat, his hands ragged and scarred with black broken nails, and the saber cut across one cheek, a dirty, livid white. And he comes along singing, 15 men on the dead man's chest, yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum.
What a great line. That is the quintessential pirate verse. Did you guys look this up? I couldn't help it. I looked it up because I wanted to know, does this song exist? Was this a real pirate or sailor sea shanty that he came up with? And near as I can tell, the answer is no. Near as I can tell, he came up with this on his own right. There's only a couple of verses he gives for this, but it's so good. And it has that shanty nature of the call and response, right? Where one person would sing the 15 men on the dead man's chest, and then the crew would respond, yo ho ho, and a bottle of rum. And it's just fun saying, yo ho ho. I was reading somewhere that he came across the name Dead Man's Chest on the list of islands. And so that was actually an island, And that was part of the seed of this story, is he just liked that turn of phrase so much. So I don't know if all that's true, but that's what I came across.
See, that is so fantastic because I spent a fair minute wondering, is it a dead man's sea chest? Is it the chest of a man who took 15 others with him? No, it's an island, I guess.
But
could be all of the above.
It's a story. It could be all of the above, which is why it's a very evocative line.
I might be mistaken, but I think the Disney ride Pirates of the Caribbean, or it could be in the movie, there's even yo-hos in that.
That's a pirate's life for me.
Yo-ho, that kind of thing.
Oh, that one too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I do think that draws inspiration from this. I think this is the bedrock of just kind of pirate fascination, right? The interest in pirates. This triggered a lot.
I love the rich, but just not classy and just crass nature. Like even just tossing coinage just willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Like that's a baller move, but it's not classy. Tell me when I use that up.
Right.
All right. Another important thing about this man, he comes with a sea chest. That is his luggage. He comes in, he moves into this inn, and the sea chest seemingly just stays in his room untouched. But he's always there. He's always drinking rum. Lots of rum. And he has a spyglass, a telescope, and he's out. He picked this inn very specifically. Apparently, it's not very popular. It's not flourishing. It's in a weird spot. But he seems to like that. He spends his days up on these bluffs looking out across the sea with his spyglass.
And I also love how it describes him as a man accustomed to command. It says he's not a guy that was, before the mast. And boy, that's a great term. So before the mast is basically the old term for enlisted sailors. There's actually a really good book. I think it's called Two Years Before the Mast. Yeah, which leans into that concept. But that's not this guy. This guy clearly was in command on some level, an officer of some kind. And so he carries himself as if he expects to be obeyed. He's really a well-painted character.
We do find out later exactly who he was.
Oh, yeah, it's coming.
But they just call him Captain. And he tells the boy, Jim, who's writing this story, this is Jim's story from his perspective, that he'll give him extra coin if Jim keeps an eye out for a man with one leg.
And Jim finally determines that he bought that cheap for how much that one-legged man lived rent-free in his head.
True.
Yeah, it says, how that personage haunted my dreams, I need scarcely tell you. He's having nightmares about just this idea of a man that this captain is scared of. Keep an eye out for a man with only one leg.
And this captain remains a huge personality in the inn because he's got stories and he's telling these tales. And a lot of them are disturbing and kind of terrifying. And he's usually drunk. He's singing all the time. And Jim's mom and dad, who run the inn, are kind of worried that he's going to scare everyone off. I mean, at first he's sort of interesting and people come to listen to him, but then he's just kind of terrifying.
Yeah, and they're afraid to ask him for more money once the coin he tossed at them had run out. So they don't like him there, but they're kind of intimidated. They're really intimidated.
Who's going to tell him no?
Right? Well, one guy does. One evening, a Dr. Livesey. Livesey? How do you say it?
I've been doing it Livesey, but I'm open to correction.
I've been doing it Livesey in...
Way to be different.
Well,
no, I'm kidding.
I may or may not have read part of this with the audiobook.
Livesey.
Then let's go with Livesey, because I'm sure I'm wrong.
I'm pretty confident that we pronounce things wrong. Yeah. The doctor comes in, and he's telling the innkeeper's wife, the lady, a story. And this drunk captain threatens him, yells at this doctor. He actually ends up pulling a cutlass on the doctor. And this man plays it cool. He is so calm. In essence, says, put that away. I am also a magistrate, and I will see you hanged. And it works. Bold.
I am impressed that the guy backed down. But this is also a wonderful kind of picture of kind of that 19th century English stiff upper lip that they loved. This guy that was always cool, always calm, always collected, but got it done. And he's going to be a fun character for the entire voyage. Here in this scene is also where we get the next stanza for the song that I love so much. 15 men on a dead man's chest, yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. Drink and the devil had done for the rest. Yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum.
Ooh, that comes in later, too.
A lot of pirates die. Just telling you all kinds of things that happen later.
On account of the drink and the devil.
Correct. And the fever. Oh, man. But we'll get there. Next chapter. Black Dog appears and disappears. The pirate names are excellent. Black Dog. So the captain, as we said, he's out on a bluff, looking out over the water during the day. But this really crawly man, dark, dirty, threatening, comes in and asks about the captain. He asks Jim, basically, where is he? And the guy's so creepy. If you watch the movie, the good ones are so unsettling. There's something off about him. But Jim has no reason to lie. He's like, yes, this table's for the captain. He'll be back shortly kind of answer. But Black Dog waits for him, and they hide when the captain comes back.
And Jim takes a lot of kind of abuse from these people that show up. I mean, it's a scary time to be a boy here with this bad man. But finally, the captain does return, and clearly these two know each other. They have a history.
And we learned the captain's name, Bill. He's like, you're my old shipmate, Bill. And keeps calling him Bill. Before that, he'd only been the captain to Jim. Well, now they know his name anyway. But these are not friends. They clearly know each other. They're not friends. But they sit down, and I think Jim can't quite hear. They're at a table conversing. But it's tense. Black Dog keeps his eye on the door. It's clearly there's tension between them, and these are dangerous men. And it ends in a brawl. But they both have swords. And Captain Bill would have won, except the sign of the inn gets in the way of his sword. And Jim puts in the detail that the nick out of the sign is still there to this day. Proof of his story.
And isn't that so great for like pubs and inns and things like that? I mean, I think they could raise their rates just based off of that there was this pirate fight and he would have been dead. It's a great detail.
But this guy, the captain, he's not doing well. He demands rum and he's struggling. And kind of before this, the doctor had come to see him and said, you have to stop drinking or you will die.
Said something like, the name of rum is death to you.
Mm. But the doctor had told the captain, like, one's not going to kill you, but you have to stop. And so the captain takes it as like, well, I can have one more. And that's how he sells Jim on it. Like, you can bring, the doctor said I could have one.
Always one more.
Yeah.
That's the meme with the guy with the fishbowl size wine glass that says the doctor said only one.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't go well for the captain here because he passes out. He falls down onto the ground. Jim and his parents are worried that this man is dead. But the doctor comes in, cool, collected. Jim is actually worried that he was injured in a fight with Black Dog when he chased him out, that there's a wound. And so Jim asks him, what should we do? Where is he wounded? And I love the doctor here. Wounded? A fiddlestick's end, said the doctor. No more wounded than you or I. The man has had a stroke as I warned him.
Are you going to start using that in practice?
A fiddlestick's end. I'm more likely to use that than what the doctor does to treat him for the stroke. Because he asked Jim, are you scared of blood? Jim's like, no, I'm good with blood. Doctor says, well, then come along. And he bleeds him. This was a common treatment technique for just about everything. This is kind of what doctors did. They literally took a bowl, put the arm over it, lanced an artery or a vein. I'm sorry, it was a vein, and drained the blood out until they thought it was appropriate.
Does this go back to the Roman belief of the four humors, and you have to balance the humors?
Yes, in many ways it does. Although I think in this case, what it actually did was a way of kind of settling down the captain. Because he was so weak, it forced him to rest. And so I think that's really what the doctor was doing here.
So the captain's stuck in bed. And Jim is very distracted by this. But this whole time we knew that his dad was sickly. And this obnoxious captain who doesn't pay them was not helping. There was stress with it. Jim's dad dies. There's a funeral. He's very distracted from this hubbub with these pirates. He never calls them that and up to this point, but his dad dies. And so they're grieving.
And it's right around that time that another one of Bill's old shipmates decides to show up. And this is another great character because we learn his name is Blind Pew. P-E-W, Pew, like a church seat. Blind Pew. Sounds like you have something to add on this one.
It's just from the Muppets.
Say it. Say it.
For some reason, Blind Pew is very, very French in the Muppet one. He says, Blind Pew. It's not recognizable as Pew.
In the 1990 rendition where Charlton Heston is Long John Silver, I think Blind Pew is actually Christopher Lee.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. For people that don't know, Christopher Lee, epic actor with an incredible history. I mean, he was Dracula, but probably most famous to modern watchers. Saruman. What a great voice. You know, he actually met Tolkien. I read him saying this somewhere in an interview or something, that he actually got to see Tolkien at a pub, and he says, "Of course I bowed."
Seemed right.
Totally right.
Very good.
Well, Blind Pew, for a blind guy, is creepy and dangerous and scary. And I think if Jim was scared of Black Dog, he's even more scared of Blind Pew.
The entrance of Blind Pew is so good because you don't see him right away. You hear the tapping, tap, tap, tapping. It's his stick as he comes close. But he gives something to Bill. And he makes Jim be part of it. He grabs Jim and he holds him by the wrist and makes him put his hand next to Bill's hand. And he hands him a black spot. We're told it's a summons, and there's a time on it.
What a great trope. The black spot. That has just taken on a life of his own. I have no idea how real that is. Do you know? Was that a thing or?
I have no idea.
Well, I love it. I think it's great. It's this pirate symbol, and the captain knows that he's in trouble. But the time, it gives him some time, and he thinks that he's got 6 hours because Blind Pew leaves, and that means he's got some time to deal with this.
He says, 10 o'clock, he cried, 6 hours, we'll do him yet. And he sprang to his feet. The captain springs to his feet. Even as he did so, he reeled, put his hand to his throat, stood swaying for a moment, and then, with a peculiar sound, fell from his whole height, face foremost to the floor. I, Jim, ran to him at once, calling to my mother, but haste was all in vain. The captain had been struck dead by thundering apoplexy. It is a curious thing to understand, for I had certainly never liked the man, though of late I had begun to pity him. But as soon as I saw that he was dead, I burst into a flood of tears. It was the second death I had known, and the sorrow of the first was still fresh in my heart.
Yeah, he's a boy, probably around 12 years old?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of realism in this scene. Before he died, before Blind Pew came, after the encounter with Black Dog, the captain did share some information with Jim. He tells him that it's his sea chest that they're after. And so Jim knows there's something about that sea chest that these buccaneers are looking for. The other thing we learn is that Billy actually tells him that he was Flint's first mate. Now, we don't know who Flint is yet, but we're going to learn about Flint as we proceed.
Made Blackbeard look like child's play.
It's a bold statement.
It's a bold statement.
But these are scary people. So the mother and her son are on their own, and they go to the nearest village, the hamlet, for help. Nobody will go.
No one.
It's
no
really
one
bad.
At all.
The doctor's out on a call, and so he's kind of the one who probably would go. So they send a boy to find the doctor.
Yeah, there are some willing to ride after the doctor. No one's willing to ride back to the inn.
And the mom gets mad. She's like, we'll go ourselves. Partly because she wants to get paid. They house this man, and at a time when they are in grief and mourning, so they go back to check out the sea chest. She says she's going to be honest. Only what they're due. We won't take anything that shouldn't already belong to us. But they go back together, and they have some time. They know at 10 o'clock because of the spot. The time was written on the spot.
I like her sense of honor in that. She's only going to take what's due, but she is, by golly, going to take what's due.
And she definitely shames the inhabitants of the hamlet as this woman and her child return to the inn. They find the sea chest, but the sea chest is locked, which is a problem. But she's smart and says, well, maybe he's got the key on him. And so poor Jim has to rifle through his pockets, and they can't find anything. And then she suggests maybe it's around his neck. Sure enough, there's a necklace that has the key on it, and they are able to look within the chest. There's a lot of stuff in there that you would expect in a sea chest. There's clothes and sundry items and things like that, but there's also money. And I love the way they describe the money as all these different realms and nationalities, all these different kinds of money. And the mom starts counting out what she's owed, while Jim keeps looking down, and in the bottom, he finds this packet of papers, this sealed packet he thinks is probably worth something, and he grabs it.
I think it's interesting in movies how they change details. So how Jim gets the key is different in like every telling, but in the book, he has to find it, and it is around the man's neck.
I like how kind of chilling and just uncomfortable that is, searching a dead man for a 12-year-old boy. Yeah, in the 1990 movie, Bill actually just gives him the key, which does have some, it kind of demonstrates that. I think in the book, even Bill says he'd go halvesies with Jim on the treasure. He does mention something about it to him, maybe not the whole thing, but they demonstrate that by his giving Jim the key, which is basically Billy Bones' sanction.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and that name, Billy Bones, they come across something inside of is it in the papers in the sea chest, or is it written on something? I can't remember. That they figure out his name, Billy Bones. But he had said, that's not my name.
Yeah, he had denied it earlier because I think Black Dog had called him Billy Bones, and they had addressed him as that, and yeah, he denied it. So one of the things we definitely know is that pirates lie. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard to tell when they're speaking if they really mean it or not.
Maybe his name is Captain. Not Billy Bones. But they hear tapping. And we know now that is Blind Pew coming back. And that guy is terrifying. Clearly evil, up to no good. Even though he's blind, incredibly dangerous. But as they run out of this inn, these pirates kind of descend upon it. But Jim and his mom make it to a bridge, and the mom faints away.
Yeah, this line is great. As they are going away from the inn, they've managed to get out of it. She says, quite calmly, "My dear," said my mother suddenly, "take the money and run on. I am going to faint." And then she does.
I feel like her inflection might have been a little different than how you just said it.
Fair enough.
I am going to faint.
But yeah, they're able to hide under a bridge. So he pulls her down, is able to catch her, hiding under the bridge. But the Buccaneers start to span out. And so this is not a safe place for him to be. He's peeping through the underbrush, trying to see what's going on. And things would have gone very bad. But there are these sounds in the distance, these gunshots, these signals that seem to mean something to the pirates. The gunshots are warnings that they're out of time or that somebody's coming. And so the pirates all essentially leave and run away.
Was it gunshots or whistles?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. I think it's a minor detail.
But it's the kind of thing we get wrong. Blind Pew is furious about this, though. He is so angry that they've lost because they had gone into the inn. They had trashed the place. They had looked through the sea chest, and whatever it is they were looking for, it wasn't there anymore. And so he is furious and is trying to, whip them up into stuff. But it's not long after this that there are horses coming down the road. This is Mr. Dance and the excise men. So I think these are like tax collectors.
Basically armed collectors, I think. Revenue officers.
And if anybody is going to be armed at a time like this, it's people who collect money because people want to take money from them. And these men are galloping down the road, and poor Blind Pew, he's not that poor, gets stuck under the hooves. He gets run down accidentally. It says that the guy on the horse tries to avoid him, but it doesn't work.
After his comrades ditch him, because there's a scene where he's calling out to them, "You wouldn't leave old Pew."
And they do.
They would.
He was also beating them with his stick prior to that, so it kind of makes sense.
He had a way with people.
Well, a repeated pattern with pirates is they're out for themselves. They're no honor among thieves. Like, they don't rescue people. That's not their. This is not a brotherhood in the way that there's a lot of loyalty between them. Kind of every man for himself when things go sideways.
Which is also their weakness because, well, for many reasons, but you can always trust them to be out for themselves. You may not trust their word, but you can trust what they're doing. It's self-interested.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, they're always dishonest. That's from Pirates of the Caribbean. He has a whole thing about being dishonest, honestly. But anyway.
Jim and his mother, though, have gotten away. The pirates are gone. There's these agents of the crown now to help them and support them. And so they're able to make it back to the hamlet, I think. And they are able to come into contact with Dr. Livesey and then a new character, Squire Trelawney.
The doctor's at the squire's house together. And they bring them these papers and tell them the story of what happened with these buccaneers and, in their tiny village. And the squire and the doctor are excited. They're so excited to look in this packet. They don't care about the money. They're excited about the papers. So they go through it. There's a book. And they figure out it's actually like a logbook of accounts. And so this was Billy Bones' reckoning of how much he was owed from all of his excursions. They had to kind of cipher it out. And his pay, his rate goes up as he was promoted. But there's also reckoning of deaths associated with it. Like, this man lived a brutal life.
Yeah, we took this ship down. This many died. I think that was the crosses in it or whatever. And then he calculated what he was owed.
And this is also where we find that line that you mentioned earlier, where they learn about Flint, the legendary pirate Flint, who is known for cruelty. And this is where there was the line, Blackbeard was a child to Flint. It's interesting in the story how many real pirates get mentioned. They mention Blackbeard. They mention a pirate named England. They mention a pirate named Kidd. I think I read there's like 5 real pirates get mentioned, but this one, comparing him to Blackbeard. Now, I grew up on Blackbeard's Ghost, which is a wonderful movie. And so to me, Blackbeard is always the quintessential pirate. Well, apparently he's a child compared to Flint.
The squire here, we hadn't met him before, but in the Muppets, he's played by Fozzie.
It works.
It
works for this character.
The squire is very excitable, and he's very passionate and so excited. And the doctor's always calming him down and be like, please tell me, if there were anything about Flint's treasure here, would it amount to much? But the point is, had he money? Money, cried the squire. Have you heard the story? What were these villains after but money? What do they care for but money? For what would they risk their rascal carcasses but money? And it says, the treasure will amount to this, if we have the clue you talk about. I fit out a ship in Bristol dock and take you and Hawkins here along, and I'll have that treasure if I search a year. He is confident that this treasure of legend is out there, and it's a lot. Just from the stories he's heard.
And I love that he's immediately willing to finance this. He will pay for it. He will make it happen. He is just, he's a hothead. He is ready to go running with this.
Well, and if the treasure is as immense as his legend, this is a trifle of an investment.
I do love, though, that Dr. Livesey is a bit worried about him being the one to go to Bristol to get the ship and get everything going, because as a bit of a hothead, the squire can't keep his tongue. He tends to speak too much and tell too many things. And so Dr. Livesey warns him that you just can't do that.
Must be secret.
Livesey,
like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Livesey, returned the squire, you are always in the right of it. I'll be as silent as the grave.
Well, we haven't talked about the map yet. So we said there was a book and there was this accounting, but that's not what they get excited about, because they go through it. Okay, there's the reckoning. And now for the other. The paper had been sealed in several places with a thimble by way of seal. The very thimble, perhaps, that I had found in the captain's pocket. They crack open this piece of paper, and it is clearly a treasure map. It shows the island. It has longitude and latitude. It shows in great detail the hills, the harbors. Spyglass Hill is marked, and there are clear X's in red ink. Over on the back, the same hand had written this further information. Tall tree, Spyglass shoulder, bearing a point to the north of north-northeast. Skeleton Island, east-southeast and by east. 10 feet. The bar silver is in the north cache. You can find it by the trend of the east hummock, 10 fathoms south of the black crag with a face on it. The arms are easy found in the sand hill, north point of North Inlet Cape, bearing east and a quarter north. That was all, but brief as it was, and to me incomprehensible, it filled the squire and Dr. Livesey with delight.
They also determined that whoever made this map was somebody of intelligence and learning. It couldn't have just been your run-of-the-mill sea dog, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there are initials on the bottom. It's JF. And so, again, it's feeding into everything is agreeing that this was Flint's map. And he was known to be, I mean, cold and brutal and calculating and a killer, but intelligent. And so it's all fitting together. One other thing about the map that I personally enjoy, the island that is drawn on the map is described as looking like a fat dragon standing up. So a fat dragon is just a fun mental image to me. So I enjoy that too.
Fat with gold.
Oh, and I forgot the other X. It's labeled bulk of treasure here. This is a very detailed map. Like anybody could read it. Jim says it's incomprehensible. It seems pretty comprehensible. Bulk of treasure right here.
where the big red X is.
Very tidy, very accurate.
Well, the doctor and the squire certainly think it's readable.
So the squire heads off to fit out a ship to take on a treasure hunt.
And what a great place for him to go. Bristol is just renowned as a seaport. I first heard of Bristol in relation to this actually on Star Trek The Next Generation. There's an episode where Geordi is making a hand-formed sailing ship, a little model, right? And the captain, Picard, comes and looks at this and he says, oh yeah, this is fitted in Bristol fashion. And I never knew Bristol fashion. And he explains, of course, that means that's the pinnacle of seamanship. Everything in its place, everything right, everything correct. Bristol is legendary as an English seaport.
I've been learning a little bit about it because I've been following this YouTube channel called, I actually forget what it's called, but it's by the Samson Boat Company. And there is a man named Leo Samson who he purchased a legendary old sailing yacht that was made in 1910. It's called the Tally Ho, and he completely restored it. And he's sailing it, I think, currently across the world. He just took it through the Panama Canal, and his plan is to have it back in the UK in time for the, I think they call it the Fastnet race out there. And it won the Fastnet race in 1927, so he wants to sail it there in 2027, which is pretty poetic and cool. But it's in the style, I guess, or at least loosely based on what was called a Bristol Channel cutter, which, the sea can get big there. But they would have pilots for these ships, right? A pilot would be able to navigate a ship through whatever waters. And in a lot of places, the government would run, the pilots, right? The pilots would be appointed by the government. They'd go out to whatever ships come in and help bring them into the port. I guess in Bristol, if I'm not mistaken, they had to have weatherly cutters to get the pilots out there. But in Bristol, it was a private job, and it was basically whoever gets there first out to the ship, no matter what the weather. Whoever gets there gets the job, and they get the money. So these pilots would kind of race each other out to these ships to get back. So it resulted in basically small boat development into these like super weatherly and fast and seaworthy boats, or yachts, I guess, called Bristol Channel cutters. So sorry, that's a little bit of an aside, but yeah, Bristol is, to your point, legendary seafaring town.
I think you're forgetting Mary Poppins' brother. The Admiral mentions ship shape and Bristol fashion.
Excellent.
That is why I have heard of Bristol.
Good point.
That's all we needed to know about Bristol.
Jim is not yet in Bristol at the start of this chapter. He receives a letter from the squire, and the letter is hilarious.
The letter is funny.
It is. Again, he is ping-ponging around in his thoughts, but he is so confident, and he believes he has nailed it. He has found a man that has helped him get his crew, because he was kind of doing it on his own. He got some guys, but it wasn't working well. But he was able to find a boat, which is the best boat ever. He was able to find a crew, which is the best crew ever. He is ready to go, and he wants the captain, he wants the doctor and Jim to meet him there. And so away Jim goes to Bristol.
It is very evident from this letter that he has not kept his mouth shut.
No, not at all.
He's been telling people everywhere. And he got help from this wonderful man who'd lost a leg in the war. And he's coming on as sea cook.
Oh, yeah. Super nice guy.
Super nice guy.
Really helpful.
found them this whole crew, smoothed the path, and so he says, "So now, Livesey, come post. Do not lose an hour if you respect me. Time to go."
Yeah, didn't have his pension, which could potentially be a red flag. Didn't have his pension from his service, but he just thought of it as a tragedy. Can you imagine, he says.
Can you imagine? This man, this very helpful man, runs an inn himself there in Bristol. And Jim actually goes and is able to kind of find him and meet him. And he goes into this inn. When he goes in, though, he's alarmed because he recognizes one of the sailors in this building. It is Black Dog, and he points it out.
He noticed him because Black Dog got up right away and ski-daddled.
The man's name, though, is John Silver, who owns the inn, and he is off after Black Dog. And he's so upset because Black Dog, that guy, what's his name? Black Dog, you say? That's his name? He plays it off that, well, he didn't pay. He was here, he was drinking, he was eating. He never paid.
He owes me money.
So he went and charged the guy he'd been talking to at the table. Like, what were you talking about?
Surely you didn't know him, because if you knew him, I couldn't bear the likes of you or him in this fine establishment.
What were you talking about? Keel hauling. Like, makes sense. Bad guy. That's a bad guy.
It's a standard conversation in this place.
That's right. Well, John Silver, this has impugned his honor. He feels so bad and so guilty that he decides to go with Jim to make a full confession that this happened in his place. And he approaches the squire and the doctor with Jim in tow.
He uses a phrase when he's talking to Jim. And this man is a large character, and he's even though he has only one leg and a crutch, he's always moving, always really active, always really polite and positive. And he takes to Jim immediately and he says, "You're as smart as paint. I knew it from the moment I met you." So they kind of hit it off. They laugh together. He makes Jim laugh. Then Jim is taken with this man, and he's charismatic and just wonderful.
Compliment, put him in his good graces.
Mm-hmm.
That's something too. This is written for young men. It's beware those compliments.
When Silver, though, shows up with the squire and the doctor, he does a great job of explaining what happened. He's forthcoming. He's outright. He keeps asking Jim, "Isn't that what happened? Can you correct me here?" I mean, he's really, really good. And Trelawney, the squire, is just taken with everyone here. I mean, he thinks they're all great, and it's just wonderful. The doctor is much more circumspect. He's much more shrewd about judging men and their relatives' worth. But even he is just amazed by this guy. He says, "Well, squire," said Dr. Livesey, "I don't put much faith in your discoveries as a general thing, but I will say this. John Silver suits me."
Yep. Ingratiated himself to everyone, even the shrewd doctor.
Well, they did recruit a captain to sail this ship for them, and he does not suit anyone.
No, none of them like the captain.
I don't know why they hired him.
Captain Smollett.
He comes in angry, calm, always calm. He is a British officer. He is stately. He is upset, though, for many different reasons. One being, everybody knows this is a treasure hunt, and he was not told. He hears it from the men. It's his job to maintain control on this boat in the middle of nowhere, and he's told it's a treasure hunt. Wouldn't have signed up if I'd known that. Also, the powder and arms, the weaponry is being held in a different place. Usually I think it was protected in some way, so only officers could access it and hand it out. Not so here. He has all these issues about things being done differently, and he doesn't want any part of it. He wants out.
This would never have worked without him, and they are so lucky they had Smollett.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but that doesn't seem like it here because he walks in and Trelawney just cannot stand him at all. He thinks he's complaining, he's whining, he's speaking ill of all these things. And it turns out that, again, the doctor, he's got some shrewdness about him. And so he asks specifics about the captain, what he wants to do.
He said there's had too much or too little.
And well, the captain has some really good advice. And he says, "I want to do this, this, and this." And the doctor recognizes what he's doing. The doctor recognizes that by the decisions he's making, essentially, he's forming a garrison in the stern of the boat where the squire and the men that were his own servants, right? None of the people he's hiring in Bristol, but the people that they knew could be trusted have control of the ammunition, have control of the weapons. And it's just it's a very clear thing the captain's trying to do, and the doctor sniffs it out right away.
Yep. They outnumbered, they can still stand a chance.
Yeah. I like this line from the cabin. He says, "Better speak plain, I believe, even at the risk of offense. I don't like this cruise, I don't like the men, and I don't like my officer." That's short and sweet.
And it doesn't, I forget who asks him this, but somebody says, so basically you're expecting a mutiny? That's why you're doing these things? And he said, if I was expecting a mutiny, I would resign I wouldn't go. Yeah.
But these are natural precautions, and he knows his business.
Yep.
And they do make some adjustments here based on his advice. He has his points, he lists them out, and they do, they make adjustments.
That's my argument for preparedness in general. People, like, you know, if you take precautions, there are those who will criticize you for, oh, you think this bad thing's going to happen. So not necessarily, but I'd sure like to be ready if it does. And it seems like the conditions are set that it could.
And there's a great interchange at the end of this discussion between the doctor and the captain. "Captain Smollett," began the doctor with a smile, "did ever you hear the fable of the mountain and the mouse? You'll excuse me, I dare say, but you remind me of that fable. When you came in here, I'll stake my wig you meant more than this." "Doctor," said the captain, "you are smart. When I came in here, I meant to get discharged. I had no thought that Mr. Trelawney would hear a word."
He says, "No more I would. It's because of the doctor."
That's right.
But the captain says that he will do his duty. He leaves. And the doctor here, the smart doctor, says, "Trelawney," talking to the squire, "contrary to all my notions, I believe you have managed to get 2 honest men on board with you. That man, the captain, and John Silver."
Yeah. Can I tell the fable of the mountain and the mouse?
Do.
This, I believe, is Old Greek. There's a couple different forms of it, but I saw a form that was attributed to somebody named Phaedrus that talked about this mountain that was just like boiling and churning and acting like a volcano. It was this massive thing that terrified everyone around them. And then it cracked open and a mouse walked out. And so there's a lot of different lessons that can be taken from this, but this idea of, this big, huge thing leading to something actually fairly small and reasonable. And so, again, the captain came in here fuming, right, looking like he was going to get fired or wanting to leave. But what was the end of it? Some very reasonable recommendations and requests. And I'm sure there's other ways that can be taken too, but I thought that was fun.
So they're all on board now. Come aboard. They're all ready to go. They're going to make way. And Jim's on board here. And the captain basically says, "Get busy. I don't play favorites." And Jim says, "I assure you, I was quite of the squire's way of thinking and hated the captain deeply."
He's a 12-year-old boy.
That's right. Yeah. Making him work. The voyage that occurs next is a lot of fun. It's told fairly briefly, but we do get some glimpses of who some of the people are on boat, and we start to see what an important man John Silver is. And he's got another nickname. They refer to him as Barbecue, which I love.
I love that too. That's actually very telling because the word buccaneer derives from a word for barbecue as well. And so I think it was really cool. I didn't know that until he was being called Barbecue, and I happened to look up Buccaneer. But there's perhaps debate. It says it either derives from a Caribbean Arawak word called bucan or a French term boucanier. But either way, it's basically referring to a smoked meat on a wooden grill called a boucan, which I believe is the same origin of barbacoa or barbecue.
I think it is. I think you're totally right on that. And so it's a fitting name for the ship's cook that he would be called Barbecue. But they have him sing for them. The crew says, "Now, Barbecue, tip us a stave." "The old one," cried another, and he is happy to do so and begins to sing 15 men on a dead man's chest. And the response from the crew, "Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum." This doesn't bode well.
And his legend is told to Jim. He says, "He's no common man, Barbecue," said the coxswain to me. "He had good schooling in his young days and can speak like a book when so minded, and brave. A lion's nothing alongside of Long John. I seen him grapple 4 and knock their heads together, him unarmed. John everybody loves him. He's a great people person, and he has great energy and leading people along. But the captain has an officer, and he said he didn't like him. The man's drinking, and they can't figure out where he even gets it. But one day he gets washed over. He's gone. So overboard, they assumed he fell drunk into the water. Gone.
I think in the movie, a couple guys throw him overboard because he was pretty worthless and problematic anyway. So he, quote unquote, fell overboard.
Yeah. In the movie, they show you.
Yeah.
And this, Jim's just speculating, and like they just think he fell overboard.
In the Muppet Treasure Island, Mr. Arrow is masterfully played by that great character, Sam the Eagle. It's wonderful.
Agreed. 100%.
We do use the words oogie boogie.
Frequently, I do. Oogie boogie. That's later.
Movie.
That's later.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, the disappearance of Mr. Arrow, though, the mate, it basically gives an opportunity for some of the other men in the crew to have to step up to do the work. And Captain Smollett is actually pretty pleased to find that there's a lot of men on this ship that can do the work, that can sail and do what they're supposed to do. There's 2 that are important here. So there's the bosun, whose name is Job Anderson, and he kind of gets promoted to serve as mate. I mean, he doesn't actually get the role, but he's doing the job of the mate. And then there's the coxswain, a guy named Israel Hands. Bosun and coxswain are terms that I think we've talked about before, but as a reminder, these are roles on a ship. They have developed over time. Both words have a similar origin. So the swain at the end is a servant or a keeper. And then boatswain means, right, the keeper of the boat, whereas coxswain, cox is, I think, an old English word for boat. And so they both are kind of keepers or servants of the boat. But where they have come to at this time in naval history, as I understand it, is the bosun is basically in charge of the deck and the rigging. He's in charge of the main functions of the ship, whereas the coxswain is largely in charge of steering. Steering and navigation and things along those lines. Now, obviously, there's overlap and they do more things, but these are important roles on the ship.
In crew, like rowing races, isn't there a coxswain role where they're not rowing, but they're helping them keep the correct rhythm?
Yep, the coxswain is the one up front who's kind of shouting it out. And again, I think a lot of this goes back to when these larger ships had smaller ships. So there would be like the captain's boat or the jolly boat or the ship's boat. And these were things, too, that like the bosun and the coxswain would command when they were away from the ship as well.
Makes sense.
So, meanwhile, we learn more about Long John Silver, also called Barbecue. Same guy. All the crew respected and even obeyed him. He had a way of talking to each and doing everybody some particular service. He's a cook, but he's the guy they all look to. Jim says he was unweariedly kind and always glad to see me in the galley, which he kept as clean as a new pin. The dishes hanging up burnished, and his parrot in a cage in one corner. And this is so good. He says, "Come away, Hawkins. Come and have a yarn with John. Nobody more welcome than yourself, my son. Sit you down and hear the news. Here's Captain Flint. I calls my parrot Captain Flint, after the famous buccaneer. Here's Captain Flint predicting success to our voyage. Wasn't you, Captain?" And the parrot would say with great rapidity, I'm not going to do it.
Pieces of eight.
Well done. And he does that until John throws his handkerchief over the cage. Kind of relentless. And that is my experience with birds.
Oh, yeah. Well, and this bird, the story of it is incredible because he says, now that bird, he would say, is maybe 200 years old, Hawkins. They live forever, mostly. And if anybody's seen more wickedness, it must be the devil himself. She sailed with England, the great Captain England, the pirate. She's been at Madagascar and at Malabar and Suriname and Providence and Portobello. She was at the fishing up of the wrecked plate ships. It's there she learned pieces of eight. And little wonder, 350,000 of them, Hawkins. She was at the boarding of the Viceroy of the Indies out of Goa. She was, and to look at her, you would think she was a baby. But you smelt powder, didn't you, Captain? That parrot has been around through awful things.
I do want to mention one thing, though. In being in Madagascar and in these places, my understanding is, yes, the West Indies, right? The Caribbean, that's the classical location in our lore for pirates. But I understand the Indian Ocean was just wild. Like Madagascar had all kinds of like pirate coves and activity, and you had so many like nations. Even to this day, there's pirates, right? Like Somali pirates is this thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
but the whole Indian Ocean, you never had major imperial powers there. You had Britain and other imperial powers trying to haul spices and other things of value through the Indian Ocean, but you had privateers and you had all these smaller nations, which were basically just like third world countries run by warlords, warlording it up. You had so many different factions and groups that I think the pirate lore and history in the Indian Ocean should be more well known, I expect, because I want to know more about it. It was just a wild place. So yeah, in Madagascar, that mention, like all these guys, they weren't just in the West Indies, they were all over the world.
And again, this isn't a great indicator that John Silver is a reliable man.
He named his bird Captain Flint. But and the bird is she swears like crazy, and I love this as a phrase. There, John would add. What?
I'm one of the people that thinks a cursing parrot is hilarious.
Well, John takes it very seriously. He says, "You can't touch pitch and not be mucked, lad." She spent all her time around these characters who did terrible things, so she's learned to swear. And here's this poor old innocent bird of mine swearing blue fire, and none the wiser. You may lay to that. She would swear the same, in a manner of speaking, before a chaplain. And John would touch his forelock with a solemn way he had that made me think he was the best of men.
I envision just somebody he will be so personable and just at least feign some kind of connection, but so hearty. Just like you couldn't imagine him to be any kind of dark.
He's a brilliant character. I mean, there's a reason why we all know the name Long John Silver, because he is a wonderful character. In theory, Squire Trelawney is really in charge because it's his money that's running all this. The captain's job is to run the boat, but the squire is in charge. And the captain does kind of seem to think that he's being soft with the men. I mean, they're always getting double rum rations. I mean, they're getting more food than he thinks is appropriate.
Duff.
And
they call it duff. There was duff on odd days like it was a birthday.
Right. And there's an apple barrel that is just standing there, this giant barrel of apples that any of the hands can go grab an apple out of at any time. Well, Jim actually really likes this. He thinks that's a great idea. That apple barrel is not as full as it was at the beginning of the journey after they've been sailing for a while. So he actually has to climb into the barrel down to the bottom looking for an apple. And it's a good thing he did because he learned some things in there.
Captain Barbossa, one of my other favorite pirates, would have liked to be here because he had a thing for apples.
Very true.
So yes, this chapter ends with Jim sitting in this barrel, altogether hidden, not meaning to hide. But then a man comes in, and it's Silver's voice. And before I'd heard a dozen words, I would not have shown myself for all the world, but lay there, trembling and listening, in extreme fear and curiosity. For from these dozen words, I understood that the lives of all the honest men aboard depended upon me alone.
I love that piece of storytelling.
Foreshadowing.
You have to turn the page now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the next page, it really just hops right into it because it is Silver speaking. "No, not I," said Silver. "Flint was captain. I was quartermaster. Along with my timber leg, the same broadside I lost my leg, old Pew lost his deadlights. It was a master surgeon, him that amputated me out of college and all, Latin by the bucket and whatnot. But he was hanged like a dog and sun-dried like the rest at Corso Castle. Long John is a pirate. He was the quartermaster, the guy in charge of supplies for Captain Flint."
And here's where the Old Walrus is mentioned. That's the name of Flint's ship.
I love that name.
Old Walrus.
What Silver is doing here is he's trying to basically corrupt, convert, recruit one of the hands. Remember, most of the crew, Silver had a hand in bringing on board. But the squire had gotten some hands outside of that. And so what Silver is trying to do is to bring everyone to his side. This is described as the youngest of the sailors. His name is Dick, and he's basically telling him the wonderful life of a gentleman of fortune, of what it means to be a pirate and to join them.
I love that that's what they call themselves, a gentleman of fortune. But he's talking to this kid. He says, you're young, you are, but you're as smart as paint. I see that when I set my eyes on you, and I'll talk to you like a man. That is exactly the word to use for Jim. And Jim is listening, and he's hurt and angry. And now he knows the secret.
But that worked on me.
Yeah. He's embarrassed as well. Yeah. Shameful that it did work. And this guy just uses the same lines. Gross. But they're talking about money. He convinces this kid to come over because money. And he's giving him advice on saving. That's how you actually keep your money and can live well, because people do stupid things with it. These gentlemen of fortune blow through their money. They'll make it, and then it's gone a week later, and they're back to begging. And he references Old Pew. That's what happened to him. He uses names that Jim knows. And now they know that he's going to use the ship to carry away the treasure and then take it over. That's the plan.
Yeah. And we now know that Long John Silver is certainly a pirate. We know that Dick is now in the enemy's hands. He's converted by this. But we learn that somebody else, the coxswain, Israel Hand, shows up. And he is talking with Silver about, why aren't we doing anything? Why are we letting the captain just run all this? When can we finally take things over? And Silver is smart. And he's able to talk these men down. And he's able to say, hey, look, that captain, he's good at running a ship. He's going to get us there. You guys can't navigate. You're terrible at math. I mean, we need to utilize him. He said, if it was up to me, I wouldn't mutiny until we had gone there, got the treasure, and gotten almost home. And then I would kill them all and move on with it. And this is the plan.
Yeah, the last moment I could manage. Mm-hmm. Not a moment before.
I think it's here Jim hears that they chucked the officer overboard. Silver had been giving him rum. The officer, he had a drinking problem, and he shouldn't have been able to touch the stuff on board, but he'd been giving him rum, and one night when he was drunk, they threw him overboard. So one less officer to deal with. But then Silver asked for an apple. Jim's sitting in the barrel, and this is a problem. But they decide to drink instead.
That's
so
right.
He gets away with it.
And still, though, he might want an apple after that. Jim doesn't know, but fortunately, he hears something now that changes the whole game. What gets shouted out across from the lookout? Land ho! With that, there's a rush of men. They're all coming up from below. Everyone's scrambling around the deck, and in the chaos, Jim is able to extricate himself from the apple barrel. But now he's got a secret, and he needs to be able to tell the captain, the doctor, the squire, but he needs to do it secretly and in a safe way.
It's interesting. They call the island, its name is Skeleton Island. They call it Treasure Island, but the name of this island is actually Skeleton Island. And Long John Silver is describing it. He knows the currents, he knows the inlets, he knows everything about how to access this island.
Oh, that's weird.
So weird. Seems like he's been here before.
Well, he passed it. He says he has. Mm-hmm. The captain asked if he'd been there, and he says, I have, sir, said Silver. I've watered there with a trader I was a cook in. And so he talks like he knows it. And when there's other information he's giving, he says, yeah, I heard this from some other guy who told me about these things. He sailed with us when I was here. So he's smooth. He's a slick customer.
But he comes up to Jim and puts a hand on his shoulder and basically gushes about how much fun this kid can have on the island, climbing up the mountains, running in the fields. There's goats to hunt and all these things. And
pack you a lunch.
Yeah, he's so excited for Jim to have 10 toes. He's like, be grateful for that. Be young. You're young and you got 10 toes. That makes sense.
He misses them.
But yeah, he promises to pack him his snacks so he can go off adventuring.
I feel like that might have been genuine. Somebody that's that cool, you got to have some genuine mixed in. And I expect that was actually a genuine
I think he likes Jim.
Message.
Yeah,
oh, he does like Jim.
Not so much that he won't kill him if it serves his purpose, but
Of course not.
He's a pirate.
but he likes Jim.
Pirate.
Well, eventually, Jim is able to get alone with the senior officers, and he's able to tell them everything. And they respond so calm. They respond so coolly to this. Trelawney gets a little upset, as he often does. Again, he's kind of the hothead. But the others, they start coming up with a plan. Now, they also start doing the math because they know a certain number of people that they can absolutely trust based off of what servants Trelawney brought with him and those there in the council. But when they do the math, it turns out it's 19 potential pirates, 7 reliable men, and one of the 7 is the boy, Jim Hawkins. So when it comes to grown men against each other, they're at the risk of 19-6.
3-1-ish.
You scolded the squire there a second ago, but here's where he stands up a little bit. He says, "Now, Captain, you were right and I was wrong. I own myself an ass and I wait your orders." So he does have some credibility and he owns his mistakes and does take orders going forward. And he's got some skills too, because these men, yeah, it's 7-19 or 6 if you don't count Jim, but they have the guns. As far as they know, the pirates don't have any. Not yet, anyway.
And a fortified position.
Yeah, in the stern of the ship. Again, thanks to Captain Smollett, thanks to the steps he made and that he demanded, they're in a far better position now than they would have been had he not done what he did.
"Well, gentlemen," said the captain, "the best that I can say is not much. We must lay to, if you please, and keep a bright lookout. It's trying on a man, I know. It would be pleasanter to come to blows, but there's no help for it till we know our men. Lay to and whistle for a wind. That's my view." The captain plays this so well because he knows if they acknowledge that they know the secret, they're just going to turn on him. They'll be done. So he allows them recreation on the island. Long John Silver gets in the boats, and the captain's so smart. He makes this announcement to the men that they can go on land, and he leaves immediately because it says if he'd stayed, it would have been obvious that Silver was the captain, that he's commanding these men, he's directing them what to do. But Jim here gets some ideas.
Yeah, a bit of a wild hair, I would say.
Slips out.
He sneaks onto one of the boats. There's 2 boats that go on this journey. It looks like this ship has 3 boats, small boats for it to use. And 2 of them are now taken up by all these men that are going to shore. And yeah, Jim hops into one really without asking, without telling anyone. He just has this idea to do it.
And here is Jim's first real look at what he calls Treasure Island. He never calls it Skeleton Island. It's always Treasure Island. And it says that my heart sank, as the saying is, into my boots. And from that first look onward, I hated the very thought of Treasure Island.
I like when he slips in, and I forget exactly how the quote goes, but a couple people notice him just because he gets in the stern sheets. Whoever he's next to at the tiller notices him, and then somehow Long John Silver also notices him from the other boat, I think. Mm-hmm. Very observant.
Yeah, he always pays attention. Nobody else notices Jim on board except Silver from the other boat. You're right. I hadn't thought about that. He's like, keep your head down, Jim.
Well, when the boats get to land, Silver calls for Jim. Jim, he's going after him. But Jim, at this point, cuts and runs. Mm-hmm. He jumps up, leaves, and he manages to escape and flee from these boats. And he's off on his own now on the island.
What was the reason he got in the boat? Do you remember?
Then it was that there came into my head the first of the mad notions that contributed so much to save our lives. If 6 men were left by Silver, it was plain our party would not take and fight the ship. And since only 6 were left, it was equally plain that the cabin party had no present need of my assistance. It occurred to me at once to go ashore. And that's it. It was a mad notion. It really, I don't think he had a plan.
Okay. I guess he is a kid. And if he doesn't, I think maybe it's just hard to hold still. Like, can you imagine this massive change in their fortunes? It was this fun enterprise, and now they're at threat of pirates. And yeah, it'd be hard to just stay on the ship and wait.
He's 12 as well. Like you're gonna have that wanderlust as well.
Yeah, he says, I now felt for the first time the joy of exploration. The isle was uninhabited. My shipmates I had left behind, and nothing lived in front of me but dumb brutes and fowls. I turned hither and thither among the trees. Here and there were flowering plants unknown to me. Here and there I saw snakes, and one raised his head from a ledge of rock and hissed at me, with a noise not unlike the spinning of a top. Little did I suppose that he was a deadly enemy and that the noise was the famous rattle. It's amazing he lives.
Oh, yeah.
He has no idea what he's doing.
In so many ways, yes.
Well, that was Steven's favorite part, right?
It was not. I do not care for serpents. No.
The island is interesting, though, because in my mind, it's very tropical, and it describes the poisonous greens of the place, very vibrant and tropical looking. But there's also like gray oaks and strange things.
And pine trees, right?
Mm-hmm. Like an odd mix of things. So, I mean, it's an imaginative island. It has a little bit of everything.
Imaginary island?
Both.
Oh, okay.
And I did read that there's been a lot of effort put out to try and decide, was this inspired by anything? Is there an actual island he used for this? And I think he, in a letter or someplace, said no, he just made it up. But it hasn't stopped people with coming up with options that kind of look like it.
There's an island called Hispaniola, which is half the Dominican Republic, right? And half French Haiti.
Yeah.
That is the name of the ship. We didn't say the Hispaniola. Yes, she's wonderful.
Yeah.
Great boat.
Everyone likes the ship.
Yes.
Schooner.
The pirates, the sailors, everyone likes the ship.
Even the captain.
Even the captain. It is a schooner. I did a little bit of research on this, but you probably know this better than me. That has to do with the rigging, right? The way they classify that.
And the masts. I can't remember if they said this was a 2 or a 3-masted schooner, because in the books it's a square rig ship. But the schooner, I think it typically means your mizzen mast, your main mast. Sorry, not the mizzen mast. The main mast is taller than the foremast.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can have rigs where the foremast is actually taller. So if it's a 2-masted schooner, the other piece to it is I think the taller mast is well in front of where the rudder is, where you can have catch rigs where it's actually behind, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So many different rigs. And then I always envision it, if it's a schooner, it wouldn't be square rigged, where you have like the yards and then you have, the sails, like the gallant sail. What don't they call them? Royals. I don't know. Different kinds of sails. These sails would be more like gaff rig sails, which would be basically like a big trapezoid almost coming off, and it could lie very close to the wind that way. It wouldn't just need the wind behind it like square riggers need that, where this, and I think even the captain says something about it, being able to lie very, very close to the wind. He has some quote about it. It's a weatherly ship. It's a good ship. It sails well. And they had some heavy weather on their voyage, which really helped it prove it to the captain, to Smollett. Thank you. Schooners are a famous rig, and they're just gorgeous, by the way. So I imagine the Hispaniola also was a looker.
A lady.
A lady, yeah.
So Jim is roaming around this island and trying not to die from the wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
But he hears a voice. He hears Silver talking to someone, and he sneaks up very cautiously. I think it's the birds that signal that somebody's there. So he is paying attention. And he sneaks up and watches this conversation where Silver's still trying to recruit the hands. Most of them are already men he knows, but this is a man who evidently isn't on his side yet. And Silver is entreating him. He says, "Mate, it's because I think gold dust of you, gold dust, and you may lay to that. If I hadn't took to you like pitch, do you think I'd have been here warning you? All's up. You can't make nor mend. It's to save your neck that I'm speaking." But the man tells him no. He says, "No, I'm gonna be honest, and if I die for it, that's what needs to happen." And Jim observes this man, Long John Silver, who he thought the best of men, suddenly throw his crutch and attack with a knife. It is sudden and brutal.
At the man's back, the man turned and walked away, and then Silver attacks.
Literally stabs him in the back.
There was an old version of Treasure Island I remember watching, and I don't remember when, but old black and white. And this scene has stuck in my mind because they play it really well. Because Silver in that movie, and I think here, uses his crutch as a harpoon. I mean, he throws it directly at him and strikes him down and is able to just fly to him. And it was, I remember that scene because it was aggressive and violent and effective. And then here in the book, it talks about how he, calmly stabs him a couple times. And yeah, Jim is watching all this.
It went down like that in the book. And he's described as a very capable man, even without a leg. So, yeah, him with a leg, I'm sure, even Flint would have been afraid of him, which, as I understand, was true.
Yeah.
Here, Jim actually faints a little bit. He's like, "I don't know if I fainted or what, but I was out of my head for a little bit." And He says the monster had pulled himself together, his crutch back under his arm, his hat upon his head. Jim is overwhelmed with this, and he's so afraid now to see such violence, and that the birds keep singing, and the day is still sunny after this terrible violence happened in front of him. It's really shocking and traumatic for him.
Yeah.
I always think about that actually when I like hiking. I like to be out sometimes by myself. And I do think about that. Like if you're at a beach, well, those waves keep rolling in no matter what happens to me. You know, that river keeps flowing. And I like that that's observed here. And I think that even though Stevenson maybe as a bit of an invalid, like I'm sure he had that recognition, because to write like that and to put that observation into this character tells me something about Stevenson that I like.
Yeah.
So Jim, it says he extricates himself smartly. He crawls out quietly, but when he feels safe enough, he runs. He runs without any eye towards direction or anything else. But then something new and scary happens. A rock falls down, and his eyes are drawn to it, and he sees a critter, a person he doesn't know, and that makes him stop.
Someone.
And it is truly a someone, but a weird-looking someone. Kind of this hunched goat-like man who is able to run over the rocks and is way faster than he is, and seems to have seen him and seems to be heading him off. And it doesn't take long before Jim gets to meet an inhabitant of the island.
I like, first he thinks of cannibals. All the stories about cannibals come to his mind. Fair enough, really.
Right.
But it says, what it was, whether bear or man or monkey, I could in no wise tell. It seemed dark and shaggy, more I knew not. But it is a man. And this man is bent over. He looks weird. He's clearly just charred to a crisp. But he entreats Jim. He like falls on his knees in supplication.
Jim asks, "Who are you?" "Ben Gunn," he answered, and his voice sounded hoarse and awkward like a rusty lock. "I'm poor Ben Gunn, I am, and I haven't spoke with a Christian these 3 years." This man has been marooned on the island for 3 years. He has been by himself. It's amazing that he survived at all, but Jim is pretty confident he's at least partly insane at this point.
He says he's lived on goats since then, and berries and oysters. And he says, but mate, my heart is sore for Christian diet. You might happen to have a piece of cheese about you, No? Well, many's the long night I've dreamed of cheese, toasted mostly, and woke up again, and here I were. I love Ben Gunn. Actually, he's phenomenal.
And the dreaming of cheese.
Don't forget the cheese.
I dream of cheese now. Can't imagine being marooned for 3 years.
Ben Gunn is... I mean, Silver is personable, right? Silver can fill the room and is buddy. Ben Gunn, like, tries to do that, but it's this shallow imitation. I mean, he keeps pinching Jim, like, as if he's got a secret or, wink, wink sort of deal. It doesn't play as well as Silver does, but Jim does kind of trust it, even though he thinks he's a little bit mad.
I imagine Jim being like, would you stop that?
Right.
I like that he mentions his mother. He's been on this island alone for years, and he finds a person, and he like pets Jim. He's touching his clothes and things. These have been something he's dreamed of, and it's almost like dream come true to find this boy. Although he really wants cheese. Like, I'm not exaggerating. The man really wants some cheese. And Jim tells him, if you come back with me to the ship, you can have it by the stone.
A stone is 20 pounds. That's a lot of cheese.
That's a lot of cheese.
I want cheese by the stone.
20 pounds. But
patrons, just hear me out.
how about a round?
Yeah.
A whole wheel
of cheese.
Anyways, Ben asks, like, why can't you go back to the ship? And Jim ends up telling him everything about why they're there, that they're looking for treasure, and that there's these pirates, and Ben knows them. They're who marooned him. At least some of them he knows. Long John Silver.
He definitely knows the seafaring man with one leg. Boy, Silver's got a reputation.
But how Ben is written, where he is kind of crazy, and it says he'll just kind of talk to himself. It says he doesn't even need a response. He just keeps rolling. But he does say that he's rich. So rich. And Jim's like, well, he's crazy.
But
Rich, I says, and I'll tell you what, I'll make a man out of you, Jim. Jim, you'll bless your stars, you will. You was the first one that found me.
And he does ask about the men that Jim is with, not the pirates, whether they're gentlemen, whether they're to be trusted. And he then kind of strikes a deal. And he asks whether he thinks the squire would pass up on 1,000 pounds. Think the squire would give that up, 1,000 pounds? And Jim is confident the squire would, that he's very, very wealthy. And so Ben Gunn basically tries to send Jim back to them with the purpose of making a deal.
Yeah, he doesn't tell Jim all the details, but he wants to keep 1,000 pounds somehow. He wants a ride home, and he wants cheese. You think I'm mentioning it a lot, but he does. He really wants cheese.
Sounds like great terms.
But they hear, I think, a cannon fire. And that's how Jim knows that the fighting has begun. He's been gone too long because he thought he was just escaping to the island for a harebrained notion, but he hears fighting begin.
How did he know? That was one, because didn't Smollett mention he would fire a gun 30 minutes before sunset, so all the crew
That
would
was a single gun.
A single gun.
But this is a cannon, and then there's small round fire.
There's a report.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely fighting going on. But Jim works his way back away from Ben Gunn, and he sees a stockade, a fort, this place that has been built and fortified. And what he sees rise up over the top of it is the Union Jack, the British colors.
Is it the Union Jack at this point?
They call it. I beheld the Union Jack flutter in the air above a wood.
Okay, my question is answered.
It's in the book. Stevenson might have been wrong. I don't know that, but in the book,
Okay.
It refers to it as the Union Jack.
Okay,
Page 89 in my copy.
fantastic. Actually, I love your copy, which is also my copy, the Bantam Classic. It's a nice little handy book.
Mm-hmm.
Which you got from where? Side note.
Oh, he's plugging our affiliate link.
Well done.
I did. I bought it in our own affiliate link because I get a 10% discount. So if you go buy it there. So bookshop.org, and I put in the episode notes. Thanks, EP. Keeping me on track.
Well, at this point, the book takes a turn. Up till now, Jim has been our narrator. It's all been in first person. He's been describing what it sees. But the next chapter says, narrative continued by the doctor, how the ship was abandoned. So we're going back in time a little bit so that we learn how they take over the stockade.
And the doctor goes with a man named Hunter. Because on the map, there is a stockade labeled. So a stockade is a defense point, right? It's a building. It's defended around. It's a cleared area on the island.
Imagine sharpened timber, vertically oriented,
Yeah,
such
it's a
that it
barrier.
is like a timber fort wall.
Yeah, that somebody would have to cross to get into this stockade. So there were pirates left on the ship. They know that they'll need to move at some point. So the doctor goes onto the land to find this stockade and make sure that there's water. They have all these other supplies, but they need fresh water. Very important.
And the stockade does have a fresh water stream, which is great. And one comment about the men on the ship is that they know that some of them are pirates. They might all be pirates, but there might be some that aren't pirates, and they just don't know. That's the problem. They just can't trust any of these other hands.
I will say the ships, the smaller boats that were already on shore from when Long John Silver went onto the island, they left a man guarding each one, and one is whistling Lillibalero. Did you look this up?
I did not look that one up.
It just seemed very specific. Whistling Lillibalero. It is, well, there's a couple versions. So I understand the BBC has often used it, but it was a song about the political situation at the time of the Battle of the Boyne, when a newly imported William of Orange defeated the Stuart King James. Had no idea. And there's many verses to it, and it has this very catchy shanty-like tune to it. Look it up, actually. It's on YouTube all over the place. There's also a version I found that probably has more words like what I would imagine a pirate would know. There's this farmer who has a wife, and the devil comes and says, I'm taking her. She goes to hell with the devil and intimidates him so badly, he brings her home. And he tells the farmer, now I've been the devil the whole of my life, but I never knew hell till I met your wife.
Well, that's harsh.
So there's different renditions. I just thought it was great, though. And it did get stuck in my head. So fun to look up. Lily Bolero.
Okay.
Just an aside.
Well, while those boats are on the shore, there is one boat left on the ship. This is the Jolly boat. And as you said, the doctor and a man named Hunter, one of the servants of the squire, they go to inspect the stockade, and it's perfect. It's a place that's defensible. It's got clean water. This is what they need. And so now begins the process of trying to get all the supplies, and in particularly the weapons, the ammunition, the powder and shot, as well as food and other things to withstand a siege, from the boat, from the Hispaniola to the stockade. This is a journey multiple times. I think there's a total of 5 trips the Jolly boat makes from the Hispaniola to the stockade. The first 4 go pretty well, but at some point in this, the men on board ship start figuring out something is going on, and this is where contact occurs.
The captain is awesome here, though, because he thinks one of the men on board is an honest man. He's with the pirates, but how would you not be if they were all together? So he cries out to this man by name, and it says, "I'm leaving the ship, and I order you to follow your captain. I know you are a good man at bottom, and I dare say not one of the lot of you is as bad as he makes out. I have my watch here in my hand. I give you 30 seconds to join me." And this guy comes out. He gets cut by the pirates with him, but he runs to join the captain. Very noble, and I think it's really good of the captain to call that out for him.
Very much so. It's the captain, the squire, the doctor. They really come up big here in this story. They are brave men, and they're merciful men as well. And we see the captain showing that here to this sailor.
I like this name of the boat. They call it a little gallipot of a boat. What's a gallipot? Is it tiny?
I just read that as a small boat.
Small boat.
I don't actually know the word.
I have no idea. But this is their 5th and last trip. And so these 6 men on board.
Gallipot is a
7.
glazed earthen pot or vessel used by druggists and apothecaries for containing medicines, etc. So it's small.
Oh, okay. Small boat.
And they've loaded it with supplies, and it is heavy because there are, 6 or 7 men in this boat, plus all these supplies heading out. They dumped over a lot of the powder and things so that the pirates couldn't use it. They, had some forethought about it, but they didn't think about the cannon, the long 9. So as this little boat is heading towards land, the pirates aboard the ship turn the cannon and fire on this small boat.
And there's one other thing we learn here is that Israel Hands, the coxswain, the guy he's now on the boat, was Flint's gunner. I tell you, if you are a pirate gunner, you're probably pretty good at what you do.
Your life depends on it.
Yeah, so this is not a safe situation, but this is where I really start to like the squire.
Yes, the captain says, "Who's the best shot?" "Mr. Trelawney, out and away," said I being the doctor. The captain says, "Mr. Trelawney, will you please pick me off one of these men, sir? Hands, if possible." The gunner.
Well, it is a long 9 that he's using, yes?
Yes.
And so did they call that Long Tom? I feel like it was called Long Tom.
I've heard that phrase about cannons, but I don't know if that
okay.
Well,
specifically
Long Tom came from Peter Pan, wasn't it? Wasn't Long Tom the cannon on Peter Pan?
Yeah, so I don't know if that's all cannons were Long Tom or if it's just that one is Long Tom.
I could be mixing it up. I do know from Hornblower, it's a long gun. And the longer the barrel of a gun like that, the more accuracy you can expect. So the long 9s were known for accuracy, and they would shoot a long distance because of that long barrel, but it was also accurate. So for at the time, an accurate weapon in the hands of a competent gunner, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Trelawney, turns out, is actually really good. But the mechanics of shooting from a rocking boat
With a musket.
are fairly impressive.
Yeah.
They do it. There's a lot of discipline in this group. I mean, the captain really instills that. And so there's ways they shift in the boat when he's about to fire to deal with the recoil.
They trim the boat, which means they tip on one side so that they can offset the recoil. Very smart.
Amazing. I trim the boat when we're getting a fish out with, because you got two large men with a net, one with a net, one with a pole. I try to get on the other side.
Yeah, to help keep it even.
Right.
So the only reason Trelawney didn't get Hans, the gunner, was because at that moment, Hans reached down to light the thing.
Yeah.
And so it gets a guy behind him. It's the only reason he didn't get him.
That's pretty impressive.
Trelawney's very good.
Yeah.
He's a gentleman, right? He had land. He probably hunted.
Oh,
But-
undoubtedly.
Yeah.
It doesn't take too long, though, where this ship is, what do they call it, scuppered? It is taken out by a cannonball. And the goods are lost in the water. They are close into shore.
Scuttled.
I think both terms would work.
I think they both work.
Scuttled, I think, usually refers to where you intentionally do it
You
to
do
your
it.
own ship.
Because the scuppers are like the side of a ship, right? The things that.
Either way, it sinks.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No,
You guys will never invite me back now.
you're welcome to. Again, we accept correction. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the thing sinks. But the water's not deep here, and they do make it out. But only 2 of their guns didn't get wet. You have to keep your powder dry. And so their advantage, where they were the ones who were armed and they had the goods and all these things, they're diminishing, but they're trying to get to the stockade. And it's really close to the shore. So they actually make it in, but they're getting fired at the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But as you say, very disciplined, and that works. The pirates are not disciplined at all. So if they show any show of force, if there's any show of force toward the pirates, they kind of scatter and run.
Like coyotes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're taking care of themselves as the pirates is what they're going to do. So they do make it to the stockade, but the pirates do attack them almost immediately. There is this charge from the pirates out of the woods, and it's one of the things I think this book does is it makes it clear that there's cost on both sides. In a lot of adventure stories, right, the good guys never lose, they never get injured, they never get hurt, they take on any number of the enemy, but here it is kind of a whittling down game. And in this first skirmish where the pirates are trying to attack the stockade, the pirates definitely come off the worst of it, but the good guys also lose a man.
Yeah.
And they don't have many men to lose.
It's actually a really powerful moment because this is one of the squire's men that he's had a long time. And this is an old man. He's been in his service. And the squire begs him for forgiveness for bringing him along, for making this mistake. And the man basically says, it's not needed, but if you want it, you have it. He asks for a prayer. And he dies. And the whole time, Captain Smollett is observing and acting. But he keeps an eye on this as well. And he covers the man with a flag in honor for his service. And they also run up the colors on this stockade. Turns out, though, that there's a downside to that because the cannon can see the colors. And they're aiming for this stockade. It's enough that they can target it. And they ask the captain, shouldn't we take that down? No,
Strike my colors?
he will not.
No.
He
Out of the
also
question.
seems to be actually kind of excited that the ship keeps firing because there's only so much powder. And this would be a really long shot. It would be a lucky shot if they actually hit anything serious. So is it dangerous? Yes, but there is a benefit to draining the powder supply from the ship.
Yeah, he says, blaze, boys, blaze, keep firing. And it describes how these cannonballs will come down through the roof, but the angle of it means they drop straight down into the sand. So they start not minding it. No more than a cricket. Like, that would take a lot of cannon fire for me to grow accustomed to that. But there was a kind of a backup plan they put into place before they left Bristol, that if they weren't back by, a few
August.
months from now, August, that this consort was going to come check on them. These other ships were going to come make sure they were okay. Because evidently, searching for treasure is a dangerous business for many different reasons. But the captain asked, when is that due? Not for a long time. They have to make do with what they have. It's not a lot, but they do a great job.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah, the provisions weren't too much either. They didn't have much of anything, really, right? They weren't going to make it on that.
They brought in some on those trips in that small boat, but that last one had sunk.
Yeah, but then when their man died, and they did say, well, at least it's one less mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly if you're talking months,
Yeah.
there's no way they have enough provisions for that time frame.
Yeah. But then they are hailed by Jim Hawkins. He had seen the colors over the stockade and knew that those were his friends. and Jim is safe. They had assumed he died. When that man had screamed earlier on the island, the men on the boat had heard it. They thought Jim was gone.
Yeah.
Didn't Ben Gunn say something about if you see it's the Union Jack, you can be sure it's not Long John because he'd only be flying the Jolly Roger here.
And then they look at the ship that
And it
has the Jolly Roger.
Roger.
Yeah, and that comes up in this next chapter where the narrative gets resumed by Jim Hawkins. So it had been Jim this whole time, and then the doctor took the last couple chapters when Jim was gone, and now we're back to Jim. And yeah, he is talking with Gunn here, and that's exactly the logic that gets used. And so that's how Jim knows it's safe to approach the stockade and to climb over.
Yeah, Ben also tells Jim that he'd made a little boat because they talked about how can you get back to the ship because that's where he thought his friends were. And like, nope, the Jolly Roger's there. But if you ever need a boat, it's kept by the White Rock. So Jim knows there's a little boat out there somewhere.
How little was it? What would it be called, that small of a boat?
This boat, we will learn, is a coracle
Oh, similar to the coracle.
that Reapy Cheap commanded in the voyage of the Dawn Tread.
So we have yet another brave lad in a coracle.
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. He just
Okay.
knows it's there.
Ben
That
has
he is now
crafted
back in
it.
the stockade.
I love that Ben. He's been busy these 3 years, and he makes it like a joke. That's that confidential pinching he does. Like he's got a secret. He's like, I've been busy
Stop that.
with another matter. Jim seems very nice to me, where he doesn't like smack his hand. Stop it.
Back in the stockade, Jim can now tell his story. He can tell what he's seen, and they're counting all the men. So when Jim can tell them that he saw this guy Tom killed, well, that's not another pirate. And so again, they're always working the numbers about how outnumbered they are. But he also tells the story of Ben Gunn, and he tells what Ben is asking for: cheese
And a ride home.
to ride home, and
And
1,000 pounds.
Well, he wants to talk to the gentleman. He wanted to speak to them directly. So that's the prompt to find a way to talk to Ben later. But it says that Captain Smollett here is on point. It says that they would have fallen into depression and blues. They have a dead man, one of their friends, lying there, but the captain keeps them busy. He has them planning. They're cutting firewood. They're loading guns. They're doing all these things to be as prepared as possible with what they have. So Captain Smollett is just great.
That's leadership.
I really admire the man. He's not likable in the way that, a lot of characters can be as a leader, but he is very disciplined and structured, and he is a leader, as you say.
Yeah, I think it was one of the best things to get to work, to keep busy, especially in the face of ponderous issues and things like this. Like, they're not just sitting around mourning a loss. They get busy.
Or
and
thinking about how bad they have it.
Yeah, they put the energy that they have from that into a productive thing.
Yeah. But the doctor's asking more details about Ben Gunn because this guy's kooky. Where did he even come from? And he asked at the end, so was it cheese you said he had a fancy for? Yes, sir, cheese. The doctor says, well, Jim, just see the good that comes of being dainty in your food. You've seen my snuff box, haven't you? And you never saw me take snuff. The reason being that in my snuff box, I carry a piece of Parmesan cheese, a cheese made in Italy, very nutritious. Well, that's for Ben Gunn. The doctor and his cheese to the rescue.
I'm pretty sure I read this the first time. It might have been in class in like elementary school. I think this was a school text. And this is the part I remember. Because I remember getting to this point and thinking, really? The doctor carried a piece of cheese?
I think this
the
might
whole
have been
way?
around the point that our author had writer's block.
It could be.
I'm in, though. That's why I never tell them to stop at Olive Garden. It's nutritious.
Oh, when they're pouring it on the salad.
Oh,
I get it now.
like with
Yep.
say when.
Yeah.
They have
Got
that
it.
little crank. Oh,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
Well, I might need to include Parmesan cheese in all my travels now.
In a
You know,
stuff
as
box.
part of my kit.
You never know how it will come in useful.
Although, aren't snuff boxes small?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of Parmesan cheese.
Yeah, this never really made sense to me, but it's a cheese-based plot point, so I love it. It's great.
Chesterton would approve.
I'll go with it.
Do reference our short.
Yes, we have a short reading of Chesterton's essay. It's an essay
On cheese.
on cheese.
It's
on our
wonderful.
Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
Patreon.com/Good Stories Podcast. Dave's way better at mentioning the links. I'm not great at that, so come find us if you want to. We'd like it. Anyway, they're doing the math here. These guys are good at math. And so it started as 7 to 19, and now they're down to 5 on the good guys' side, but the pirates are down too. They think maybe 15.
Yeah, definitely less. And while they're thinking about this, Silver shows up. There is an embassy. He comes under a flag of truce. Say what you will about Long John Silver. This is a brave man. He is incredibly brave.
Bold.
And he comes up and he wants to parley. He wants to have a discussion. He wants to deal with the men in the stockade.
Parlay.
Oh, I said it. Yeah.
He brings a flag of truce, the white flag, to talk. And the captain won't let him inside. And Silver's making sure that they're not going to double cross him. And the captain has a really good line about how if there's treachery, it's going to be on your side, not ours.
Yeah.
But he won't let him inside the building. And so this man with one leg has to sit on the sand. He doesn't like that so much. But they have a talk. And they both put down terms, really.
What Silver wants is the map. He doesn't have the map and he needs it. And so he offers all sorts of concessions. He offers to, take them away, to leave. I mean, again, he's probably lying the whole time, but he is trying to get the map. Smollett's offer back is not generous.
No, he's like, turn yourselves in. I'll put you in irons and take you back to England.
You get a fair trial.
But Silver gives his affidavit. I love this as a thing. He gives his affidavit.
Affidavit.
That's his word of honor, his affidavit. Like it's his legal term to make it legitimate. It's very good.
I like that he does refer to himself at this point as Captain. And Smollett says, Captain Silver? Don't know him.
Don't know that
Wait, you mean
guy.
the cook?
The captain tells Silver, your ship's in irons, Master Silver. You're on a lee shore, and so you'll find. So what is a lee shore, Dave?
Lee shore is the shore that the wind is blowing towards. And if you are in a sailing vessel and you don't have any means of propulsion other than your sails, it's really hard to get away from that thing.
It's like being up a creek without a paddle.
Yeah,
He's on the lee shore. He's in a dangerous position.
Yeah, it's dangerous because you don't have a lot of room to maneuver, really. You have the wind blowing you towards the shore, and you have to maneuver. You can't sail into the wind. You have to basically zigzag. You have to tack back and forth to get away from that. And you might not have that much room based on, I don't know what you would call it, the various depths, right? If you're close into shore anyway, right? And you have a boat with a keel that draws a certain amount of water, like you don't have a lot of room. Very dangerous.
So the captain basically threatens Silver and says, you're on a lee shore.
Mm-hmm.
Silver doesn't like this news. It's like, fine, give me a hand up. Not me.
No one.
No one will
gives
give him a hand.
up.
And it's humiliating to him. He says he's growling. This man who's always put together and poised growls his way up, and then he yells a threat to them. Before an hour's out, you'll laugh upon the other side. Them that die will be the lucky ones.
That's quite a threat.
Chilling.
That's chilling from Captain Silver.
What's funny is that Captain Smollett, very thorough man, he had posted everyone as a lookout with a gun at different sides of the cabin, but they were all so interested in his conversation with Long John Silver that they'd stepped away from their post. They weren't standing watch, and the discipline disappeared. And Captain Smollett is so upset by that. He gets mad at them. There is one man who stays his post. It's the man he called out from the ship who was with the pirates and came at his risk to join them. He's the only one who stood his post.
The man's name is Gray, and Smollett says he will, he'll write that down, basically, that he did what he did.
Put your name in the log, but in a good way.
In the good way. Because they are expecting an attack, and they are expecting one soon, and sure enough, one comes soon. And again, it's just an exciting story. I mean, I don't think we're going to do the beat-by-beat move through the battle, but there is a full battle here in the stockade. It starts with the good guys in a fortified position where they are shooting out, and they're trying to count how many of the pirates are coming from what direction. And then there's this whole tactical maneuver about, well, there's more pirates coming from that way, so should we move over? And he's like, no, because they'll just come around the house the other way. And so they're shooting in all directions, but the pirates have manpower. They have far more people, and they are able to force their way to the cabin. Shots are exchanged, and then this turns into a melee brawl outside of the cabin where they take their cutlasses and they run out, and it is an exciting read.
Yeah, Jim is part of it, lucky to be alive, but then it's all over, and they kind of won. Like you said, when you fight back, these pirates lose, they have no discipline, they run away. And so they end with a count of 4 good guys to 9 pirates. They started 7 to maybe 19. Mm-hmm. And so they have lost men here. A couple men are injured and or die. But they're down to 4 to 9.
Fortified position. Now we're closer to 2 to 1 than 3 to 1.
Yeah.
I'll say the pirates did get muskets, but their musket fire won't go through the log walls. They're thick enough that the pirates had to get very close before they could shoot inside. And that was to the benefit of our good guys.
What they're worried about is they have what they call loopholes, which is like the hole from which a sniper can fire out of. Well, they were worried that those loopholes would be to their disadvantage if the pirates get close enough, because they'll come in and shoot through the loopholes at them. So every loophole needed to be manned and defended.
Yeah. And they did get close enough, and that's why they ended up fighting with cutlasses outside. Mm-hmm. But in the end, the good guys actually came out of this fairly well.
Yeah.
Fairly well.
And the count of 4 to 9 is way better, but it's actually even a little bit better than that. I have a footnote on mine, and we all know I love footnotes. It says, the mutineers were soon only 8 in number, for the man shot by Mr. Trelawney on board the schooner died that same evening of his wound. But this was, of course, not known till after by the faithful party.
I did mark that footnote for you. I'm glad you have it.
It was straight up 2 to 1.
Yeah, so it's even a little bit better than they think. Yeah. They're not unscathed, though. And so even the survivors, though, are wounded, and including the captain. So
badly.
Captain Smollett is badly wounded. Fortunately, they have a doctor among their group, but it's still a very, very serious situation for them to be in. As we move into the next chapter, that Gray, that guy that was very stalwart, the guy that came over and held his post, he starts kind of cussing about the doctor. He thinks the doctor's insane because the doctor has, put on his coat, armed himself up, and then walked out of the stockade into the wild. And Gray can't understand why he left. But Jim knows, because Jim knows about Ben Gunn, and he knows the doctor is out trying to find him.
And here again, Jim's a young boy, sitting in this terrible place. There's dead bodies, both pirates and their men lying there. And he gets this kind of harebrained idea. And so he loads his pockets with biscuit, smart, because he knows he probably won't get anything else to eat. And he leaves. It says he took French leave of them and slips out when nobody was watching.
I'm glad you pointed out the French leave. I thought that was just kind of a fun, subtle insult, not so subtle, insult to the French.
And him writing this, he says, that was probably a bad way of doing it, but I was only a boy and I had made my mind up. He knows about that little boat. Ben had made a little boat and told him where it was. He's going to go get that little boat and try to get out to the ship. He wants to cut the anchor, let it drift, because there can't be that many people still on the boat.
Exactly. And so he is able to go find the coracle, and it is not an easy little boat to maneuver. It takes some effort. And again, it's not like Jim has spent his life up to this point as a sailor. He's a cabin boy. So, he is learning as he goes, but he is learning quickly. And he is able to find this coracle, and he is able to shove off, and he heads his way towards the Hispaniola, and he is kind of excited to find that he can reach that cable, the line, the rope that down to the anchor, and he can hold on to it. There seem to only be 2 of the Buccaneers left on the boat, and they're drunk. Again, the discipline of the faithful party versus the indiscipline of the pirates comes up over and over, and it's always a benefit. What was the line from the song? Drink and the devil. It shows up here.
It reminds me of orcs, where they kind of take each other out if you leave them to their own device. If they don't have a common enemy, they end up fighting together. They're not just drunk, they're angry.
Yeah.
And they're fighting. But I have to read this line about the coracle because I think it's great. He says, I can give you no fairer idea of Ben Gunn's boat than by saying it was like the first and the worst coracle ever made by man.
Ben tried.
So a lot of the next chapters are Jim trying to navigate this thing and trusting to luck and the wind and the tide to help him get there.
They said you had to know its ways, and you did not.
And
even if you did.
Even Ben Gunn himself has admitted that she was, quote, queer to handle till you knew her way. Certainly I did not know her way. But he's smart, this Jim. He really is smart as paint. So the lather, the rope that's holding the anchor, it's really taut, really heavy. And he has the realization that if he cuts it when it's really tight, it could snap back at him.
Yeah, he says, one cut with my sea gully, that's his knife, and the Hispaniola will go humming down the tide. He's trying to beach the ship. He's trying to cut it off. Now, I wondered about this a little bit because it seemed just as likely to me that the ship would float away.
Drift out to sea.
But apparently the way the currents and things go here, he could be confident that it was going to beach itself at some point around this island. But he said, so far so good, but it next occurred to my recollection that a taut hawser suddenly cut is a thing as dangerous as a kicking horse. 10 to 1, if I were so foolhardy as to cut the Hispaniola from her anchor, I and the coracle would be knocked clean out of the water. So it's too tight. There's too much strain on this rope.
Yeah, this isn't a little rope either. This would have been enormous, right? So imagine a chunk of rope bigger than your arm smacking you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he's smart. He uses the movement of the water. He waits till it's slack to cut this thing, and she's drifting.
And he is drifting with her. Again, he cannot control this coracle he's in. He is just kind of doomed. And eventually he sort of falls asleep. And the ship is floating and the coracle is floating where the wind and waves may take them.
But in the morning when he wakes up, he realizes that, well, he sees that the ship has sails. She's rigged up with sails now. So the two men on board did something. They were busy. But it becomes very evident that nobody's steering. She's floating, but fully rigged up. So somehow he manages, again, wind and tide and luck, to get close to her. And there's a rope hanging down. Then he ends up climbing onto this boat. And he is committed now, where that coracle gets destroyed by the bulk of the Hispaniola. And he is on this ship with two deadly pirates.
Two deadly pirates. And as he climbs up over the top, fortunately, he sees one of them is clearly dead. Clearly dead on the side. He's described as the man with the red hat. The man with the red hat has not made it. These two pirates seem to have been fighting each other. The other one looks dead too and keeps slipping kind of up and down against the side. But before long, he actually gets up, walks up to him, and he learns that that pirate is not dead, but he is severely wounded, which is a good thing for Jim.
Jim gets mouthy here. He says, "Come aboard, Mr. Hands," I said ironically. The title of this chapter is I Strike the Jolly Roger. So these two men, these two pirates had fought. And as you said, one was dead. And this man is hurt. He has a deadly wound in his thigh. And he's basically just bleeding out. And Jim uses this as an opportunity. The guy says, I can help you steer it. Because he also wants to get to the island. But give me some rum. Give me a tie for my leg so I stop bleeding. And give me some food.
Mm-hmm. And this isn't just any one of the Buccaneers. This is Israel Hands. This was the gunner on Flint's ship, and this is the coxswain on the Hispaniola. So this is a guy that knows how to steer and manage and work a ship. And so this deal makes sense. So Jim needs something from him, and this guy definitely needs something from Jim. So the deal makes sense. And Jim, he's got pistols on him, so he feels like he's going to be okay here. He's armed. This guy can't seem to move, and he does help him. This guy does guide him. Jim has looked at the map, and there's a cove he knows that he wants to go to beach it, and Hans thinks he can help him do it.
I like this line. Jim says, "And you'll please regard me as your captain until further notice. By the by, I can't have these colors, Mr. Hands, and by your leave, I'll strike 'em. Better none than these." He runs to the color lines, hands down the cursed black flag, and chucks it overboard. "God save the king," said I, waving my cap, and there's an end to Captain Silver.
This deal between the two of them does seem to really work. They're able to make way. They're heading where they are, but Jim sees that this guy is watching him. This line is pretty great. It says, he's watching with a smile. It was a smile that had in it something both of pain and weakness, a haggard old man smile. But there was besides that a grain of derision, a shadow of treachery in his expression as he craftily watched and watched and watched me at my work. Yeah, never trust a pirate.
No, and they have some chat here. Israel keeps talking about how bad his luck has been and all the people he's seen dead and dying. And he uses a great word, though. Howsomever. Howsomever, I think, is a wonderful word. I've never heard that one. But he asked Jim to go fetch him something below decks. And Jim is smart. He goes below decks. But he runs up to a different hatch, and he can see what this man is doing. And the guy pulls a long knife out of some rope and tucks it in his shirt. He's feeling much better, and now he's dangerous.
How clever is it that he came out from a different location? He played that very cool. He knew that this man had more than just whatever he asked him to go down. I think it was wine, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he popped up from somewhere else to let's just see.
And he also sees that Hands can now move, not fast, but he can move across the ship. And so the danger level keeps going up. But Jim still needs him to beach the ship. And so he brings him back a bottle of wine, and they continue the process of moving the ship into the cove, which there's no way he could have done it without this pirate helping him.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was interesting because Jim noticed he asked for wine because he said rum would be too strong or whatever. And his thought was like obviously something's up now, right? Pirate's going to want his rum as much as anything else.
Yeah, and the thinking of this man, this pirate, is interesting. He says, "I've never seen good come a goodness yet. Him as strikes first is my fancy. Dead men don't bite. Them's my views."
And that line, "dead men don't bite," that's actually shown up several times in the book so far. I am familiar with the Disney form, right, of the dead men tell no tales.
Dead
but
men tell no tales.
But the dead men don't bite is so practical, right? It's so logical, and that's the code that he lives by here.
I mean, in a way, this is kind of a coming of age story for Jim, because at the beginning, he was totally fooled by Long John Silver, right? Totally taken in. And here he's learned some things, he's seen some things, and he's not being taken in by this man. So he's playing a dangerous game, but as you say, he needs this guy. But they're pulling into this inlet to ground the ship in the sand. And the guy tells him exactly where to go, and Jim asks him, "Well, how do we get it loose again?" And he tells him, like, "Oh, just a rope out around a pine tree. It's going to work. You got to wait for the right time and the tide, but no problem."
Take a turn around the capstan.
Jim is delighted with how well this is working, and it's just a moment, a premonition, something, a shadow maybe, but he is at the wheel of this ship, and he moves suddenly when this guy should have killed him, and somehow it saves him. The spin of the wheel catches the guy's hand instead of the knife going into Jim.
Mm-hmm. But the man still has this dirk, this knife, and coming after him. But Jim's not worried because he's got his pistols. And so he pulls them out and he fires.
Click.
Nothing. He's been in the water. His powder is wet. He did not reprime. And he is now just cursing himself for that oversight. He's quick, though. He's a little guy, and this other guy is injured, and so he's able to dodge and duck and move and, use the mass between them to hide. But he's thinking here it's really just a matter of time until Hands is able to take him down.
Hands on him?
Yeah, absolutely. And so then Jim decides, well, okay, he's injured, though. I'm going to climb. And so he climbs up, and he's able to sit in a place where he can reprime his pistols as the pirate starts climbing up this mast towards him. Jim now has his pistols ready to go, and he tells him to stop.
Says, "Then with a pistol in either hand, I addressed him. 'One more step, Mr. Hands, and I'll blow your brains out.' Dead men don't bite, you know, I added with a chuckle.
Confidence.
The guy keeps talking. They really are able to spin a yarn, gets him monologuing a little bit. But suddenly the man moves, and it says that this is a surprise and suddenness of it. Jim fires as well. His guns fall out of his hands, but the pirate falls too. The knife goes into Jim's shoulder, so he's pinned against this mast, but he watches this man fall to his death.
Yeah, and fortunately the knife in Jim's shoulder it's not deep and it's not serious. I mean, it pins him to the mast for a little bit, but he's able to pull himself away from it, and he has survived this encounter with a killer, with a very deadly pirate. And so now he is by himself on this beach ship. He does some fairly practical things. I mean, again, this was at, I don't know about full sail, but there were lots of sails up. And so Jim takes down the ones he can. Some of the smaller ones he doesn't have a problem with. The mainsail ends up just like flopping out in the water because it's just way too big and too heavy for him to handle on his own. But he now has the ship. It is no longer in the hands of the pirates. He knows where it is. No one else knows where it is. And so now is his time to head back to the stockade. He's worried about this because he knows he shouldn't have left, and he didn't tell anybody. He's worried he's going to be in trouble, but he's hopeful that the fact that he had this ship will make up for his
truancy is what he called it. There lay the schooner, clear at last from buccaneers, and ready for our own men to board and get to sea again. I had nothing nearer my fancy than to get home to the stockade and boast of my achievements. Possibly I might be blamed a bit for my truantry, but the recapture of the Hispaniola was a clenching answer, and I hoped that even Captain Smollett would confess I had not lost my time. He has been gone a while. I think it's been almost a full day, and it's getting dark here at night. And he makes his way back to the stockade, and he's surprised that there's this huge fire going. It seems almost wasteful. Smollett is a careful man, and there's almost a signal fire, but he walks up to the stockade.
My foot struck something, yielding. It was a sleeper's leg, and he turned and groaned, but without waking. And then, all of a sudden, a shrill voice broke forth out of the darkness.
Pieces of eight! Pieces of eight!
That was jarring. Good job.
Jim walks into the stockade hoping he can just like slip back into his bunk. He's imagining all these ways of kind of, showing up again. And it's Silver's parrot that sounds the alarm. The stockade is now overtaken. The pirates are there. He had no idea this was going to be the case. And he finds himself now in an incredibly dangerous situation. Silver now has him captured.
His parrot kept better watch than a man.
It says that there are 6 buccaneers, and the speeches by Long John Silver here are really good, and they're all a little mocking, but he's like, oh, it's Jim Hawkins, shiver my timbers, dropped in like a, well, come, I take that friendly. But they basically give him a choice. They say, well, you join us, or you die, with a lot more words.
A lot more words.
But Jim says, hey, if I'm going to choose, I need to know what's what. Basically, how did this happen? How are you here? And Silver tells him a piece of it, that they made a deal. And so the pirates get the stock, they get the cabin of the stockade, and he doesn't know where the men went. He doesn't know where the captain, the doctor, where they went, but it's not here.
He did in that speech tell him a little bit. He said to Jim that Smollett doesn't think much of him anymore.
Yeah.
Try to play on his emotions a little bit this way.
But for Jim, this is mostly great news. Like, that doesn't hit him too hard because he knew he'd kind of be in trouble anyway, and that they're still alive.
Yeah, that he got as much information as he gave.
Yeah, strange that part of the deal was that the doctor would come take care of them. Turns out the pirates had been sleeping by the mouth of the river, a really swampy, terrible place. And from the beginning, the doctor's like, oh, there's fever here. There's malaria here.
It's going to take half.
Yeah, the part of the deal is that he comes every day to care for them. He has medicines that can help them. Seems like a really good deal for the pirates.
It does seem like a good deal. But the pirates don't seem to think so, and they start doubting Silver. They think that Silver has really screwed up everything on this, and we get this Pirates Council where the remaining pirates actually walk out of the stockade because Jim has really, I mean, he's refused to join them. He's claimed all these things, that it was him that was in the apple barrel. This is where he tells all the things that he's done, and he says, "Kill me if you must." Well, Silver isn't going to kill him. Silver is basically protecting him from the other pirates.
Yeah, it says he's more a man than any other one of you.
Mm-hmm. So the other pirates, though, aren't liking this, and so they go outside, and they have this little powwow, and then Silver is now talking to Jim and describing how, okay, we might be in trouble here.
Be ready.
Be ready.
But he does protect Jim, and there's a very pivotal thing that Jim tells them, is that I won't join you, not going to do that. But if you let me live and we make it back to England, I will do what I can to help keep you from hanging.
Yeah.
Long John
Swinging.
Silver has a legitimate reason to be terrified of hanging. This is like the one thing he seems to truly be afraid of. And he does like Jim. And Jim stands up and he acknowledges it all. And he's done amazing things for a 12-year-old boy. But also that he says he will use whatever powers he has to keep him from hanging. John likes to play both sides anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so he likes this. But he does put his neck out to save Jim here.
I like the phrase you used just there. If he wants to keep from swinging.
Well, yeah, and he calls it a long stretch, talking about hanging.
Yeah.
Like, he's seen hanging, and this has got to him. He knows what's due him if he ever gets back to England.
It is a long stretch.
Well, the other pirates end up coming back in, and they deliver to Long John Silver something we have seen before, a black spot. And Jim says he's actually got the paper with him here as he's writing this memoir. And this was a page torn out of a Bible. And this scene is great because Long John lays into this. Dick, that youngest of the sailors, the one that Long John turned, he mocks him over this and is harsh. He says, "You tore a page out of a Bible. That Bible's no good to you. You know, you've lost this." I mean, he really cranks up the heat with that.
Again, the Muppet version is fantastic. Tim Curry does a immense guilt laying on just taking out a page out of the Bible. And Jim actually reads the back of it because they picked the last page because it's blank on one side.
Mm-hmm.
And so they could put the time for his, basically they're going to have a vote. They're decaptaining Long John Silver. And the scripture on the other side,
Revelation.
"Without are dogs and murderers." And yeah, interesting that Jim keeps it. Presumably this is years later. He's telling this story that he keeps the spot.
The pirates have complaints against Silver, and they list them off. And then Silver, just an amazing character. He responds to each in turn. He goes down the list of the complaints and explains how it wasn't his fault, it was their fault. And that he was actually, it would have worked if they had done what he told them to. And then finally, though, he has one trump card left up his sleeves. There's something that he hadn't told them yet. And this is where he throws down Flint's map. Part of the deal that the other pirates didn't know to get into the stockade was that they had handed over to him Flint's map. And I think there's an aside somewhere in here where Silver asks Jim, "Why did he give me the map?" He just didn't understand why that happened. But the Buccaneers are thrilled, and Silver is now back in their good graces and is still in charge of them all.
But they go to sleep that night. We're all good. They're going treasure hunting tomorrow. And in the morning, the doctor comes early. And he gives these men malaria medicine. And he's surprised to see Jim and sad to see Jim. He doesn't know what's going on with him. If he went over to the pirates, but that doesn't seem right. But basically, he ends up asking for a chance to talk to Jim. And they stand on either side of the barrier. And Long John doesn't listen. To his credit, he lets Jim speak to the doctor. And he gets to tell him that the Hispaniola is back in their hands. He knows where it is. And the doctor asks him to run. He's like, one leap and you can run away. But Jim had promised that he wouldn't. And he keeps to his word, even to pirates.
And the doctor even tries to take that on himself. He says, I'll take the shame of this. He gives Jim every opportunity here.
Let's run.
Yep. And Jim, he's a man here. He steps up and he keeps his parole. We've seen this before. I mean, Mr. Midshipman Hornblower, him keeping his parole was such a huge part of the end of that book. And so, again, Jim is in no way a pirate. He is showing himself as a man of quality here.
You're keeping your word of honor.
Yeah.
Even at peril.
It's interesting, though, that Silver does come up afterwards, and he's talking with the doctor and he's talking with Jim, and the doctor gives Silver some advice, and it's a little cryptic. He tells him, don't be too much of a hurry to go after the treasure. And Silver blows that off. He's going to go after the treasure. And then the doctor says, my second is a piece of advice. Keep the boy close beside you, and when you need help, halloo. I'm off to seek it for you, and that itself will show you if I speak at random. Goodbye, Jim. Because he said there's going to be a bit of a squall when the treasure is found. This book has been fascinating so far because it's been this massive adventure, this massive journey. There's been, give and take, and the good guys are on top and the bad guys are on top, and it's now whittled down to just a few left on either side. But the whole point of this story of coming to the island was the hunt for the treasure, looking for Flint's treasure. And so these next few chapters are the treasure hunt. And the Buccaneers, they tie up Jim, carry him along kind of on a leash that Silver is holding, and the Buccaneers go now with the map in search of Flint's treasure.
Spyglass Hill. If you think back to the beginning, Spyglass Hill was the place. It's a specific place, and you're supposed to follow the compass. They find a skeleton pointing, and it's Silver who figures it out. And it's a dark joke. So Flint had come here, buried the treasure with help from his men, who he then murdered. So nobody else knew where it was. And that he'd left this skeleton pointing as a mark for direction, but they take a bearing off this skeleton.
And they're even able to recognize who it is. Mm-hmm. There's enough hair left, the clothes. They even know which of their old shipmates this was. And we learn that Flint had taken 6 men with him to bury this treasure, and he was the only one that came back. So he had killed every one of his shipmates. Remember, Ben Gunn was one of Flint's crew, but he was not one of the 6 that went to bury the treasure.
Yeah, just like Billy Bones. He wasn't one of the men who helped bury it. Yep. So they knew that it was on the island, but they didn't have the map, and they didn't see it buried.
So they keep traveling, but Flint has such a hold over them. He was such a terrifying man, such a harsh captain, that almost his spirit tends to linger over this. And they actually worry that literally his spirit is lingering over his treasure and over the island.
They do know he's dead. Like, they saw him die. I forget where.
Savannah.
But he drank himself to death, which common pattern among these pirates. But yes, this idea of luck and spirits, very superstitious, this group. And so they saw one of their shipmates dead, and the compass pointed on the ground, and remembered just how evil their captain was. And then all of a sudden, out of the middle of the trees in front of us, a thin, high, trembling voice struck up the well-known air and words. 15 men on the dead man's chest. Yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. I have never seen men more dreadfully affected than those pirates. The color went from their 6 faces like enchantment. Some leaped to their feet, some clawed hold of others. Morgan even groveled on the ground. They assume, and they know, they feel it in their bones, that this is the spirit of that evil captain.
Yeah.
I always find it interesting with this because these most superstitious men who believe in the supernatural are so willing to commit heinous acts of evil, but it must affect them or something, right? Because they have to, they're superstitious. They do evil anyways.
And they numb it out with rum.
With rum.
Yeah, but here, like Dick, the young one, he's grabbing that Bible, the one that Silver said would never help him again. They are so terrified. But again, Long John Silver is an impressive man. It says, still, Silver was unconquered. Shipmates, he cried, I'm here to get that stuff, and I'll not be beat by man or devil. I never was feared of Flint in his life, and by the powers I'll face him dead. They're 700,000 pound, not a quarter of a mile from here. When did ever a gentleman of fortune show his stern to that much dollars for a boozy old seaman with a blue mug, and him dead too? And Silver continues to lead them on.
The men say, don't you cross a spirit? Like, how dare you even consider crossing a spirit of a dead man? Like, the superstition level here is big. But I think it's Silver who says, that didn't even sound like Flint's voice. You know who it did sound like? Do you remember Ben Gunn?
Oh, Ben Gunn.
We marooned that guy.
Yeah, that's it.
And then they feel better. Why? Nobody minds Ben Gunn, dead or alive. Nobody minds him. He was not a favorite.
Oh, that guy?
Nobody minds him. But they continue on looking for this treasure. And again, the instructions were very clear. So they come up to it. They find the location.
Before us was a great excavation, not very recent, for the sides had fallen in and grass had sprouted on the bottom. In this were the shaft of a pick broken in two and the boards of several packing cases strewn around. One of these boards I saw branded with a hot iron the name Walrus, the name of Flint's ship. All was clear to probation. The catch had been found and rifled. The 700,000 pounds were gone.
The next chapter is titled The Fall of a Chieftain. Very good.
I love this because Silver is watching his men coming to terms with the realization that there's no treasure. And he slips to kind of the side. Jim, he whispered, take that and stand by for trouble. And he passed me a double-barreled pistol.
Here is a narrow corner, as indeed I thought it was. It says that Silver's looks were quite friendly now again. And Jim, it says he's revolted because Silver keeps bouncing back and forth. He keeps switching sides. And now he's Jim's friend again? Because somewhere along the line, he was like ready to kill Jim again. Back and forth, back and forth. But here, now that the pirates are turning on Jim, he needs Jim as an ally.
The pirates are digging around in the dirt. Silver is mocking them because that's just what he always does. He's like, dig on, boys. And they are able to find like a gold coin, a single gold coin, and they are furious. And they start coming after Silver. They start yelling at him, and they're just so angry. And then one of them says, mate, says he, there's two of them alone there. One's the old cripple that brought us all here and blundered us down to this. The other's that cub that I mean to have the heart of. Now, mates, he was raising his arm and his voice and plainly meant to lead a charge. But just then, crack, 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 3 musket shots flashed out of the thicket.
The doctor shows up for Jim, and he'd warned Silver, be ready for a squall. But they show up to save Jim, and Silver ends up saved as well. He becomes the cook again. Like, this is a very sudden turn, where it was this big fight happening with the pirates. 3 of them go down with those cracks, and I think there's 3 left alive who go running.
Yeah, they take off. And we have the 3 kind of rescuers that ambush them were the doctor, that man Gray, and Ben Gunn. And so now we have those 3, Silver and Jim, and they say, well, we got to get down to those boats. Remember those 2 boats that they took off the Hispaniola? They still need those. They still want those. And so they run down, and they want to get there before the pirates do, the 3 remaining pirates. But the 3 remaining pirates are just running. They're not heading to the boats. And so basically everything is good now for the good guys.
The pirates just scattered.
And the doctor gives the chance to explain what happened, the deal with the stockade, and what the story of the treasure really is.
Yeah, Ben Gunn is there. Silver's like, you're a nice one to be sure, Ben Gunn. He says, I'm Ben Gunn, I am, replied the maroon, wriggling like an eel in his embarrassment. And, he added after a long pause, how do, Mr. Silver? Pretty well, I thank you, says you. He plays both sides of the conversation still. Old habits. He's been new to people again.
Yeah.
But they find out that Ben spent his time moving the treasure. It says it's only recent, in the last 2 months before the Hispaniola showed up, he was still moving treasure. It's only recently he finished the task.
There's a lot of treasure. A lot of treasure, and it's heavy. And that becomes the next task. So Ben Gunn had hidden this all in his cave. And that's where Trelawney is. So the squire is there armed, guarding the cave. And now they all begin the process of taking the treasure to the Hispaniola. It says that Jim's not very strong, so they don't bother to let him tote things. So instead, he gets to sort the money, and he loves that. He thinks that's just fun.
Yeah, he puts the coins in bread bags. I love this line. It says, "The half-idiot maroon was the hero from beginning to end." But the list of different kinds of money, like you said at the beginning with Billy Bones' coins, there's all different kinds. It was a strange collection, like Billy Bones' hoard, for the diversity of coinage, but so much larger and so much more varied that I think I never had more pleasure than in sorting them. English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Georges, and Louises, doubloons, double guineas, moidores, I don't know if I said that right, sequins, the pictures of all the kings of Europe for the last 100 years, strange oriental pieces stamped with what looked like wisps of string or bits of spider's web, round pieces, square pieces, pieces bored through the middle as if to wear them around your neck. Nearly every variety of money in the world must, I think, have found a place in that collection. And for number, I am sure they were like autumn leaves, so that my back ached with stooping and my fingers with sorting them out. And he thinks of just not the work, but the pillaging, the killing, the blood cost of this treasure as he sorts. It's not just a happy day, but this is a wild amount of treasure.
Yeah, I mean, this is, Smaug's hoard is what this reminds me of. It's just amazing. Meanwhile, there are the three mutineers still on the island, and every once in a while they hear them singing. They're just drunk. They've been able to find some of the booze that's still around, and they're just drunk, and so they're not really a danger. But day after day goes by where they're hauling this down to the ship, and eventually it's all done, and they start to go. And this is where we see the mercy, I think, of the good guys here, because they're not going to take these mutineers back with them. That's just not going to happen. And in some ways, that's the more merciful thing, to leave them on the island, because if they take them back, they're just going to be hanged. But they leave them supplies. Mm-hmm. They leave them powder and shot and food, and they show kindness to them as they go away.
Yeah, Ben Gunn had taken goat's meat, right, and salted it.
He was quite well stocked, it seems. Oh, and that was why they left the provisions in the stockade. They could leave them there because Ben could feed them.
Yeah, that wasn't a problem. What they needed was to get out of the stockade. And so it ended up being just a total win for the good guys.
It says they're so short-handed, though, that they actually stop as soon as they can. They find a place that they can trade to take on men to run the ship. They can't get across the big water without more hands. This worked out well.
Yeah,
it's a happy ending for these guys.
They go into the town in this place. They're looking for hands. They're looking for supplies. But when they get back to the boat, Ben Gunn is there, and he's looking a little bit sheepish. And he tells them that Silver is gone. Ben Gunn lets them go. And not only that, but Silver was able to kind of carve into where the treasure was, and he was able to take some with him. They think like 300-400 guineas that he got to take with him. And I do love the line here, because it says, "I think we were all pleased to be so cheaply quit of him."
Just setting it up for a sequel is what we're doing here.
Jim says he never sees him again, though. Okay. I don't think there is a sequel. Is there? Do you know of one?
Not by Stevenson. I mean, I think there's been fan fiction stuff, adventures of all these folks, but I don't think there is a sequel. But it certainly could be with that as a setup.
Well, and Silver, it says he was older, maybe around 50. I mean, older than a lot of these deckhands. And that what he wanted was to retire. But he wanted to live a small, peaceful life. He didn't want to do this anymore. And he had this whole plan for savings. And the inn he'd had back in Bristol, he sold it. So he had a plan.
His wife was part of that, right?
Yeah.
She had the inn, but as soon as they went out to sea, she was supposed to have sold it, all this.
Yeah, and they have a meeting place established. Like, the guy's a thinker, and mostly he doesn't want to hang.
Yeah, certainly at this point. I love this next line. "All of us had an ample share of the treasure and used it wisely or foolishly according to our natures." Captain Smollett is retired from the sea, so he does well with this. He survives his injuries. Gray, that guy that Captain Smollett allowed to come join them on the boat, is a mate and part owner of a rigged ship. He's got a wife, he's got a family. And Ben Gunn's story is pretty good.
He gets his 1,000 pounds. They hold up their end of the bargain. He spent or lost it in 3 weeks. Or to be more exact, in 19 days. For he was back begging on the 20th.
Something about that number 19. That's the number of original of pirates. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was just a coincidence.
But that pattern of pirates who at whatever cost gain these earnings, other people's money, really, and then they just waste it, fritter it away, then they're back to begging.
They had enough money to buy Miami. They pissed it away so fast.
Well, Ben is in that boat, but it says that he does get to go to church, and he's a notable singer on Sundays and Saints' days.
And it sounds like they give him a job. He becomes a lodge keeper, so like a gamekeeper, and he's kind of a favorite, I guess, with the local youth. So in some ways, that's a happy ending for Ben. It doesn't really tell us what happens to Jim. So again, I think set up for a sequel there that I don't think ever happened.
Oh, man. I think it'd be a fun one.
I do really love this story. This story has held up. It's why we're doing it on the show. I read it as a kid and enjoyed it. I've read it several times since, and then here rereading it this time, there were more things I caught that I really, really enjoyed. Again, plug for Muppets Treasure Island. It's the funnest video version, and it's totally different. The plot is very, very different, but it's just wonderfully done, and I enjoyed going through this one.
If you want a good movie that's like got more of a serious tone to it, that one from 1990, it has Christian Bale
as a little boy. He's Jim.
As Jim, yes. It has Charlton Heston as Long John Silver. It has Christopher Lee as Blind Pew. That's a good cast, but I think they do it really, really well, and they keep mostly to the book.
I may have to check that one out. That sounds good.
So in this, the half-idiot maroon is the hero, start to finish. I mean, you could argue it's Jim as well. He saves them time and time again with his harebrained notions. In the Muppet one, the clear heroes are Waldorf and Statler. It is so good, and I think about it frequently.
We're going to end this episode by reading the last paragraph. The bar silver and the arms still lie, for all that I know, where Flint buried them, and certainly they shall lie there for me. Oxen and wain ropes would not bring me back again to that accursed island, and the worst dreams that ever I have are when I hear the surf booming about its coasts, or start upright in bed with the sharp voice of Captain Flint still ringing in my ears. Pieces of eight! Pieces of eight! Okay, one more thing. It's not every day in the 21st century that you get to speak like a pirate, and I can't think of a better episode to try and do that. So I thought I would read you The Last Voyage. As far as I can tell, it's a poem generated by ChatGPT, but I actually like it a lot. When sails are torn and bones are worn, and night outlasts the breaking morn, cast me not to silent ground. Let ocean's roar be all around. Every man aboard owes the sea a debt. Some of us are just closer to paying it. Aye, The Last Voyage. 'Tis a good poem, to be sure. So, I'll ask you this. Where, pray tell, would a pirate find a hook? It'd be at the second-hand store. The second-hand store! Ye lubbers and swabs, what say ye, Stephen?
And with that, we'll turn the page, and we hope you join us for the next chapter.